Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto saves Tsunade from pain part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. It always began the same. I want to be at your side always. That's why I'm not afraid to die. If it means I can protect you. Because I love you, Naruto-kun. Her soft voice drifting up in the darkness, the flash of light as she battles pain in her attempt to rescue him. The rage inside building up as he sees her fall yet again. This time motionless, unable to avoid the spear in Pain's hand. The rage in him drowning out everything but the sickening sound of metal piercing flesh, the hatred exploding inside him consuming everything. Hinata! Sitting up, grasping at air, and panting even as he sweated heavily, Naruto fought to keep the dangerous fox chakra from taking him over. Eyes focused at last, he muttered as he fell back onto his bedroll. This is the 4th time. It was driving him nuts. She said she loves me? Me? I never even once looked at her like that. She's a friend, comrade, a fellow leaf shinobi, he marveled silently, and ever since that day, he had been wrestling with this and his own memories. Moving outside the village to a safe distance as the fox had nearly consumed him that first time. He knew he had to come to terms with events, and quickly. Already he was on the receiving end of some very curious stares as he left the village for the woods every night. If he didn't resolve this matter soon, it would be more than just looks. He would have some very difficult questions coming. Laying there as he made the decision to get some answers of his own, he felt a sense of peace drift over him. He woke up as the sun crested the Hokage memorial face wall. He knew it as sure as he knew his own name. He rose and set things to rights before dressing in his black and orange jumpsuit over the steel fishnet shirt. He reached for his necklace and remembered. Should I have to tell Granny it's gone now? Not looking forward to that, he thought, but added it to his growing list of things to do. Setting his sandaled boots and securing his leaf headband, he rose and went through his usual morning routine of stretching and working out the kinks. With that done, he headed into the village, nodding to the gate guards as they gave him a welcoming smile and wave. Things had surely changed. No longer was he that fox kid to be avoided or ridiculed. Now, because of everything he had endured, never once giving up on seeking the acknowledgement he craved, nor once breaking his ninja way, he was a hero. Hero of the Leaf Village was being whispered around him now as villagers talked. Moving briskly through the rubbled area that was once the village hidden in the leaves, he headed quickly to where he knew Shizen had set up the Hokage's tent. He paused outside the tent as 2 masked ANBU guards stepped out of the shadows. Uzumaki, Naruto, you have business with the Hokage? A voice behind a dog mask asked him calmly even as the pair's hands drifted to the blades on their backs. Hero or not, they took no chances with the Hokage's safety. Especially not now in her present condition. I need to speak to Granny Tsunade, he replied bluntly, not even for a moment acknowledging their actions. It's a personal matter. She is sequestered in business. The one wearing a blank mask retorted, the body and voice telling him it was a woman this time. He almost snorted as he started forward. He never quaked before them and he wouldn't start now. I'm going inside. His tone firm and his face set as they tensed momentarily before relaxing and backstepping as Shizen stepped out calmly. It's definitely you then, Naruto-kun. Only you would prepare to take on 2 fully armed and prepared ANBU without regard. Follow me. Tsunade-sama told me to bring you to her if you showed up. A wry twist of her lips, though she bet you were going to be here by the 2nd day's end. Now to set her plans into may well be the biggest gamble of her life, which makes me even more nervous. Failure could be very bad, but could success wind up being worse? She thought privately as she turned and walked back into the tent, one of the ANBU holding it open for her and gesturing for Naruto to follow. They walked past the elderly counselors who were on their own way out, and Naruto ignored the cold eyes they had for him. It was no secret they had no love for him and considered him a dark secret weapon. He just kept his head up and shoulders squared as Shizen stopped in front of a partition and faced him. She is still tired from the other day, so please make this quick. She needs her rest. Shizen cautioned him before parting the flaps so he could enter. Once on the other side, he gulped and felt extremely guilty for disturbing the woman he called Granny, but before he could speak the flap fell back into place behind him, and he felt a flow of chakra outside. He would bet a meal at his favorite ramen shop it was so their conversation couldn't be overheard. He took a slow swallow as he walked over to the bed where Tsunade sat up reading a memo or something. Granny stopping when a withered hand rose to interrupt him. Spit it out, she said in a low voice as the gray-haired woman looked up at him with strong piercing eyes that showed more than they should have. Her had seriously overdone it. Just like at the battle with Orochimaru. Using up so much chakra that her transformation was negated, revealing her aged appearance rather than the youthful vibrant one she prided herself on maintaining. The first Hokage's necklace is gone, he said quickly before he could stop. When I became the 9 tails this last time. I know. Katsuyu told me, she replied briskly as the papers were set aside and her hands folded together under her chin in a pose Naruto knew very well and took an odd comfort in seeing. It was when the 6th tail emerged. The fox was too strong for it by then, and without Yamato in place to help restrain you, the hands spread apart. He bowed his head and shivered. I am so sorry, Granny. Nonsense. It's not like you had a choice in the matter, Naruto. The old fox took your anger and used it to try and take you over. Lucky you managed to subdue him before it was too late. About that there's something I need you to know," he said as he lifted his head with serious eyes. "I know the truth now. Some of it, not all." That piqued her curiosity. "And what might that be? Are my plans for you about to be ruined before they even begin?" She wondered almost fearfully till he spoke. "I'm the son of the 4th Hokage." He said so bluntly she blinked. He sealed the 9 tails inside his own son in order to save the village. He was there inside me when the fox almost won. He went on to tell her the entire discussion he had had with his father's shade. "I see," she said after a sip of water. One she wished so very much was something quite stronger. "Okay, this makes some things easier, just have to keep my fingers crossed on the rest," her thoughts not showing in her expression as she answered. Sarutobi-sensei clamped a lid down on everything about the incident and thusly you. "I can see why he did it, but at the same time I am sorry for what you experienced because of it." Naruto waved that away. "Doesn't matter now. Past is the past." His tone simplistic, as though he had told himself that many times over. And he probably had. "Doesn't change the facts. I'm the son of the Yondaime Hokage and it's time I grew up," he added, showing yet another level of maturity many would be shocked to see. He rose to his feet. "I just wanted to get it out in the open." He started to leave when her next words brought him up short. "Have the nightmares stopped? Or do they continue?" He faced her with wide eyes and fell back into his chair. "How? What? I'll forget it," he thought to himself. "No. Yes," he said at last with a nod. "Natural enough. That's why you moved out into the woods," she said gently. "The battle with the 7 pains was more than enough to give anyone nightmares, Naruto. Your mind has to come to terms with what you saw." She paused and felt her lips turn up ever so slightly. "And things you heard that day." "What do you mean by things you heard?" "Pain talked a lot." "Don't play dense, Naruto. You know what I'm referring to." Her eyes hardened and narrowed dangerously. "We don't have time for games." He flushed. "How do you know, Katsuyu? I am the only person outside of the 2 who knows what was shared between you on that battlefield. And it will stay that way until you or she tell me otherwise," Tsunade promised quietly, "though some may guess as they saw her charge in recklessly when you were pinned. Some may already think they know," she cautioned him before she waved him out as he opened his mouth. "I won't tell you what to do on this matter, Naruto. This one you have to figure out on your own. Now go. I need some rest. Make the right choice, Naruto. Don't make the same mistake Jiraiya and I made so long ago," she thought sadly as she watched him leave through the flap. And just like that, Shizen was there, hustling him out of the tent. Hinata rose from her pallet and stretched languidly as she collected her thoughts. Then she blushed heavily as she once again recalled her words to him. She still couldn't believe she had the courage to just say it like that. But then again, she rationalized for the 100th time, "I thought I was going to die." Taking off her nightdress, she stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her hand drifted to the barely visible scar where Pain's metal spear had pierced her side. She had been extremely lucky that nothing vital had been nicked or actually struck. Even more so that Sakura-chan had been able to reach her and used her skills as a medical ninja to heal her injury. She posed for a moment or two, mentally comparing herself to Sakura, which of course brightened her mood considerably as she shied away from addressing the fact that everyone, including her, knew that Naruto was crazy over Sakura and always had been. And with that came the thought of maybe her confession would make him think of her instead. She posed in what she thought was a seductive pose. "I don't know if I could be that bold ever again," she whispered to her reflection, "but if it meant a chance to have Naruto-kun for myself?" Her skin darkened yet again, and she felt a near faint approaching at the thought. So she shook her head to clear her mind and grabbed her clothes. Dressing quickly, she had a light breakfast, prepared a repast as was her custom, and went outside to see her cousin Neji already hard at work training with her father Hyuga. Setting the tray down on a stool nearby, she left quietly so as to not disturb them. Once beyond the Hyuga compound, more of a series of large tents than a compound, she felt saddened by the sheer amount of devastation that greeted her pale silvery eyes. Everything was gone. Pushed back so far as to be crushed against the very walls that protected the entire city. It wasn't the first time the village had been attacked by a powerful enemy, but never had one been so thorough in their efforts. As things stood, it would take some time for the village as a whole to recover. If it ever did. She nodded in passing to other members of the clan who were working hard to find people still buried under the rubble, using their clan's Kekkei Genkai, the Byakugan, to find their life energies. It was one way they helped. Others carried loads of rubble to be crushed into gravel for streets, or to make new mortar for construction. There's so much to do. She saw the way people moved with determination and hope and found herself smiling. They may have destroyed the buildings, but our spirit is unbroken. And she knew just why that was. It was because a boy that everyone had hated and feared so much they refused to even acknowledge his existence had stood up and saved them all as a young man. A man they now all trusted so completely it was hard to believe. In the days since the attack, she saw for herself just how much their attitude towards him had changed into respect and admiration. She knew without a doubt that there wasn't a single person in the entire village that wouldn't give their life for him. Villagers and shinobi alike would do whatever it took to either help him or protect him. I doubt even he realizes just how much he has changed all of our hearts. Without even thinking about where she was going, she found herself outside the supply tents and cabins. She sighed as she realized it was her turn to help Sakura with cataloging and storing away medical supplies. She wasn't looking forward to this. Somehow the pink-haired girl knew, not suspected, but knew just how deep her feelings for Naruto ran. This is not the time for that. Soon though, I'll have to see if she feels anything for him, or not. Going inside, she called out in her shy, quiet voice, "Sakura-chan? Are you here? Oh, Hinata, you're early. But it's good to see you. We really need to get these supplies into storage. It'll only be a matter of time before they are needed again," Sakura said as she checked her lists without looking at the other girl. "Oh, okay," Hinata replied as she took off her lavender and silver jacket and braced for the work to begin. Hours passed as the pair started in on the supplies, and Sakura would look over at Hinata many times, trying to find a right moment to talk with her about what she had figured out. But instead of saying anything, she studied the dark-haired girl and realized she was actually jealous. Hinata had changed in several ways over the years. Not only had she grown in confidence and skill, but she had blossomed into quite the beauty. And of course she would just have to develop a better figure. Sakura thought enviously as she watched Hinata stretch and the girl's clothes molded to her body. It's just not fair, her inner self whined. It didn't matter that she trained under Tsunade, one of the legendary Sannin. It didn't matter that she was becoming a very skilled medical ninja in her own right. I want boobs, dang it. And then to top it off, when she had been left stunned by Pain's attack, screaming for Naruto to save them, and then watching helplessly as he fought Pain, Hinata had charged in to save him when he needed it the most. All she did was stare in shock and listen as Ko, the Hyuga ninja next to her, told her what was happening. To say she felt more than a bit inadequate was being nice. So when lunchtime came around, she decided they needed to have a little girl talk. Taking a seat and opening up a wrapper to enjoy a rice ball, Hinata jumped when Sakura asked softly, "Mind if I sit and maybe we could talk?" She looked up in surprise but nodded, "Oh, okay." It was a companionable silence for a bit as Sakura ate from a boxed lunch, and Hinata enjoyed what she had made that morning. But soon enough Sakura decided to start it off. "You were so brave that day. Charging in like that. I never knew you had it in you," Sakura said at first, then mentally smacked herself as Hinata's shoulders squared as if insulted. "Why wouldn't I? Naruto-kun, he needed help," Hinata replied shortly without looking at her. No one else was moving when it was obvious he needed anyone to help. She added, glancing at Sakura. "I wasn't really thinking, I just knew I needed to act fast," she said almost wonderingly. Inside, however, she was trembling as she could almost see where this was headed. "Still, it takes a lot of emotion to overcome shock and fear of that magnitude," Sakura said after a few bits of her lunch. "Something of greater power like love?" Hinata's head shot up and their eyes met, and she knew that Sakura knew. Instead of quailing over it as she would have once, she smiled serenely and nodded ever so slightly. "Indeed. I won't deny that I feel strongly towards him. I have for some time now," she admitted in a near whisper, even as she felt stronger inside for having said it. Sakura nodded as if the admission was all she needed. "Well, anyone with eyes could tell that except maybe him. Well, I just hope he figures it out, the idiot." She smiled almost conspiratorially at the other girl. As it is, every village girl and kunoichi alike are practically swooning over this whole hero of the leaf thing going around. She shook her head, ate a few more bites and added, knowing him, "It's all going to his head, this hero stuff. He always did talk big." She paused and continued ruefully, "Weird thing is, no matter what it took, he always backed it up. It's his ninja way. He stands by what he says. No matter what it is or what it costs him," Hinata retorted, surprising Sakura at the frostiness. "He doesn't back down or break a promise. If you paid any attention like you claim, you'd know that already. And no matter how long it takes," Sakura added, thinking about Sasuke and Naruto's refusal to give up on bringing their teammate back. "No, he doesn't." She looked at Hinata and said softly, "I wish you luck and hope things work for you too," smiling gently as Hinata turned red before continuing, "All we got to do is get him to notice you. I mean really notice you. Maybe you'll have a chance if you're willing to go the distance, and if you know what you're letting yourself in for." About to reply, her head turned as she heard a voice calling her name. One that had her sweating anew for a whole different reason. Naruto was sweaty and sore by the time he could get to doing what he really wanted to be doing. Shizen had given him a long list of things that needed to be done, so he went about it as quickly as he could, using his Kage Bunshin no Jutsu or the Tajua Kage Bunshin when it was a task that would require a medium to large group of bodies to perform. And with every task he completed, he was unaware of the fact it further cemented the village's loyalties to him. To them, he was using his special skills and power to help them regain themselves, and it only heightened his status in their eyes. Stretching, he sighed as he began making his way towards the Hyuga compound, making sure to stop by his favorite ramen shop for lunch. After eating 3 bowls of hearty pork miso, he left to resume his search for a certain elusive kunoichi. He nodded to others when they hailed him, pausing to talk with Kiba and Shino, which was when he learned Hinata was at the medical center sorting supplies with Sakura. A different type of tension filled his gut when hearing that. Yet another thing he was going to have to deal with. The crazy whirlwind crush he had held onto for Sakura had muted substantially over the years. In part thanks to Jiraiya's taking him on missions and training him, as well as the time he spent at empty Maiboka. But he had to deal with it still, as it had changed into something different. Not a lover-type thing and not a brother-sister thing either. He really needed to sort this all out in his mind. Especially after Hinata's calm confession. The real source of the insane emotional storm roiling inside him at the moment. Altering his course, he strode towards the medical center, practicing the myriad things he wanted to say and ask. Rejecting them one after another as they sounded dumb or childish to his mind. Not noticing that the two girls were in the back, Sakura approaching Hinata. When he did notice, he darted under the cover of some nearby shrubs to observe and quiet the butterflies spawning in his stomachy. He had to get control over himself, and quick. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to do this. Well, they aren't fighting. That's a good sign, I hope, he thought quietly as he edged back until they were out of his sight. Rising slowly, he nearly jumped out of his skin when a lazily drawled "yo" sounded behind him and a gloved hand settled on his shoulder. He turned hand to his heart. Geez, Kakashi-sensei, you almost gave me a heart attack. The white-haired Jounin eye crinkled in amusement as he grabbed Naruto and led him quickly away. You don't want to listen in, Naruto. It's not polite, he said once they were a safe distance away. Besides, whatever they are discussing is between them. The eye crinkled a bit more as he pulled out his favorite Ika novel, Make-Out Tactics. Reading silently as they walked, Kakashi didn't notice the sadness that entered Naruto's eyes upon seeing that particular book. When the silence continued, he did look up and he quickly put it away. I was wondering if you were giving any thought to writing yourself? His head tilted quizzically. Besides, if not you, then no one would continue the series. Naruto froze. Me? Writing? I hadn't really thought about it. He stammered as the idea blazed in his mind. I mean, it's not like I have any talent for it or anything. No way. I'm nowhere as pervy as he was. Well, you may want to consider it. These novels are another legacy of Jiraiya's. One left to the world. And though you passed on the Rasengan to Konohamaru, you will want to leave something more lasting than a jutsu for the world. He may have never said it. These books are his lasting tribute, and have made it so his name is never forgotten by those outside the ninja world. That is a true legacy. Naruto nodded as he considered Kakashi's words. Maybe, but that will be for another time. Right now I have to focus on. He gestured around them. Kakashi laughed softly. Oh, I didn't mean right away. But it is something worth thinking about. Anyways, I also wanted to talk with you about your jutsus. I think you need to increase the number of jutsus you can perform when needed. You need to learn more of them. The ones you know are indeed powerful, but the wider the variety at your disposal, he trailed off suggestively. Not to mention get more of the leaf ninja even more solidly behind you, as Tsunade-sama wants. The more options you have in combat and outside it. Naruto finished for him. But should I focus on the wind-style jutsus for now, since that is my element? Very much so. Like I had said before, a lot of Jounin master their principal element, and then progress to developing the strength of their other element natures to further broaden their abilities. I remember. You said you have mastered 3 natures. And with that, you can then make better choices as you have more to choose from on and off the battlefield. Kakashi nodded, surprised and little impressed that Naruto remembered that discussion so well. Your skill and power far exceed your current rank. Mastering senjutsu like you have alone, he shook his head. It's impressive and more than a little frightening at the growth you have shown in such a short time. Like a giant rising up among men. He thought about it and said, feeling a bit down as he did so, you also said there weren't many wind types here. And with Asuma-sensei dead? He looked to Kakashi for answers. I would suggest the shinobi library. But it's still buried and we have no idea what, if anything inside it, has survived. He mused. It may mean you go on a training mission on your own. I can't. Not now. Naruto argued bluntly. Things here are not. He trailed off, not sure how to say it. I understand your frustration, Naruto. The Jounin said softly as he continued to think it over, and then his eye brightened. Listen, you still have to perfect your chakra-shaped control. At Naruto's confused expression he continued, you still have to use shadow clones to pull off the Rasengan, right? Naruto brightened immediately and nodded, yeah. Same for the Rasen Shuriken. Which means I still need to perfect that before I can try learning other, new techniques. Exactly. Perfect what you know now before you begin to expand your knowledge base. It will definitely make learning more later that much easier. And give you time here to settle your business. I'll start first thing tomorrow on my training. The energetic Genin said enthusiastically, rejuvenated now by the discussion. It will take some hard work to get it down pat, but I will. Especially by using the shadow clone training technique. Might be a good idea if I and Yamato were around, he suggested, finding himself smiling under his mask at the thought of Yamato's reaction. Considering the hell Naruto put him through last time with the near non-stop training. I can see his face now. Naruto nodded happily and then sat down. With that out of the way, his mind went back to his original problem. Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi's head nearly rolled off his shoulders at the hesitant tone as he moved to sit down against the tree, hand freezing at his equipment pouch where the book was safely stashed. What is it, Naruto? I need to talk with someone who has. He flushed darkly. Well, some experience in these kind of things. Kakashi closed his mouth with a snap and gestured for the boy to continue. This ought to be Good. Maybe it's because you've read those books so much, or the fact you've been around longer than me. But I need your advice. Personal advice. Kakashi's eye went wide and he looked back to the direction they had come from. Well, he has done some growing up. It was only a matter of time hiding the smile under the mask yet again, which would only embarrass the boy more. He sighed quietly. Go on. Naruto took a slow breath then let it out. There's someone I want to talk to. And I'm not sure how to do it. Usually I would just say what's on my mind. Only this time, I can't. I don't want to make a fool of myself. All the way there, he gestured behind them, I was going over what I was going to say over and over. And over, and over, and nothing sounded right, you know? He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. It's not Sakura, is it? He asked gently, almost certain of the answer. At least I hope it isn't. You know I carried a torch for her for years. Only now, it's different. Not the same way as before, oh man. I'm not making any sense. Wait, Naruto. You care for Sakura still, right? It's not that same hard crush like you had when we first met. It's changed as you have. You're not so obsessed with her no matter what, you want her to be happy? He nodded eagerly, shocked that Kakashi had figured him out so easily. That's it exactly. Considering how much she loves Sasuke, it may be best to just let it go. Better for us all in the end. You know she didn't feel that way about you. Knew that a while back, he answered sadly. I mean, I know that I'll never forget how I felt for her, but at the same time I've come to realize that you've gotten over her? He asked in that same soft tone. You never really forget your first love, Naruto, nor do you simply get over them. I know that much from bitter experience. And there's someone else, and it's just driving me crazy. Kakashi held his hands up, palm outwards. Okay, there's a girl that you want to talk to without messing things up or making things really awkward. Why not just ask her out on a date? See if these feelings you're having are real. Maybe I just know. She's said some things that tell me she is attracted to me. And I never knew it. Not once was there a clue, and now that she said those things I can't them out of my head. Hard to say, Naruto, that's a rough one. He nodded sagely even as his thoughts were less charitable. This would work for your benefit. You lucky little bugger, having been there yourself, you will understand how she is feeling now pretty well. Use that as a starting point. If you're serious about this, make sure of your own feelings first. If it doesn't work out, you can be gentler in letting the poor girl down. Naruto's eyes were wide and his mouth hung open as he devoured that tidbit. Who knows, maybe this is the time for you to find a bit of romance yourself. He said teasingly, and he laughed as Naruto turned 3 interesting shades of red. So take her out on a date and talk with her. Listen to what she says and how she says it. You'll find the right words. He said before rising. I better get going. See ya. And with a poof of smoke he was gone before Naruto could ask any other questions. Right, he said ever so softly to himself. I just have to get the nerve up to ask her out. No problem. He swallowed a chuckle as he got up and went back the way they had come. Thinking hard over everything Kakashi had said, he shaded his eyes as he stepped out of the woods and saw the 2 girls still chatting away. Following on his impulsive nature, he headed over. Hey Hinata! Can I talk with you for a moment? Go to my god, it's Naruto. What do I do? What do I do? A flush began creeping up her neck as he got closer and closer still, his words finally sinking in. I'm okay, she said, overcome by her typical shyness where he was concerned. Sakura could only stare in shock as her teammate approached as though his sanity depended on Hinata's answer. She got up and was about to say something when Naruto simply smiled to her and turned his attention to Hinata fully. Never in all of her memories had he been so abrupt with her. It was as though she was an afterthought. She saw red and her gloved fist went flying, and then it stopped, and her eyes widened. He's faster, I didn't see him move. She felt his strength as those fingers closed around her fist as he said softly, Not now, Sakura-chan. Without looking at her, Hinata's eyes had dropped then shot up at the sound of leather meeting flesh. His eyes had never wavered from her as he spoke in a quiet voice. The skin around his eyes and irises had become like they had been when facing pain. She found her hand moving of its own volition to rest upon his arm, and she felt the tension. He's so strong. And nervous? What in the world would make him nervous? I have to say something. Now Naruto-kun, you wanted to talk to me? She asked timidly, though her eyes searched his. In the sage mode they were unreadable. She got to her feet and let her hand slide along his arm before tugging gently so he released Sakura's fist. You are teammates. Don't fight. Her voice was shaking ever so slightly, and she struggled inside to stop it. Naruto looked down to see the slender hand atop his forearm, and he flushed slightly. Sorry. He let go of sage mode and took a slow breath. His battle reflexes had improved so radically he hadn't seen it coming yet reacted to it on an instinctual level. Just like he was now, only it was to Hinata's presence. He let go of Sakura's fist and stepped towards Hinata slightly. Will you have lunch with me tomorrow? He blurted out in that same gentle voice. His arm moving slowly so as to not startle her until their fingers touched ever so slightly. please? It was that last word that had her nodding rapidly, yes. She almost felt like flying. Hiskimout. I would like that, Naruto-kun. His smile was almost blinding. That's great. His cheeks flushed as he looked down, and he stepped back slowly. Meet me at the lake outside the village, he said, still smiling before he turned to face Sakura and braced himself. Go ahead, do it. Sakura's eyes were as wide as they could go, watching it all. Watching Naruto act so un-Naruto-like. Like any ordinary boy asking a friend to lunch. When he stepped back and said what he did, she reached out and tapped him on the top of the head. I shouldn't have tried to hit you. Hinata-san's right, we're teammates. She cocked her head and smiled. But we better get back to work, she said as she moved back towards the center. Hinata, join me when you're ready, she added over her shoulder after turning and walking away. Besides, I have no right to be even remotely jealous. She was still in a bit of shock, not really hearing Sakura yet nodding all the same. Her wide eyes were on Naruto. Naruto-kun? About what I said, her head tilted down, she began fidgeting with her fingertips. I don't know if I can do this, I'm not bold like Sakura-chan or Ino-chan. His fingers curled gently around Hinata's, though he had no memory of stepping back close to her. I heard you and I think about that all the time. And you? He said quietly. She gasped at the quasi-declaration. You think of me? Flushing as she realized they were practically holding hands. Yeah. Since that day. It's made me think back for as long as I've known you. Changed how I saw things. I just wanted you to know, he said before he let go of her hand and backed away. I'll see you tomorrow. He turned and jumped into the trees and disappeared. In a smiling, near tearful daze, Hinata went back to work and stayed that way all the way home. Dinner was a blur and her responses were automatic. Excusing herself, she had no idea of the baffled expressions worn by Neji and her sister, Hanabi. Jumping from tree branch to tree branch, Naruto felt more alive than ever before. She said yes. She said yes. Upon reaching the village perimeter wall, he waved to the guards before going outside to where his tent was. He took a few deep breaths and relaxed in the tent, sitting down and folding his hands in his lap, gathering up nature energy. Feeling so atoned, he noticed the fluctuations in his own body and chakra. Yet he didn't stop till he was well into sage mode. Rising, he left the tent and went to a wide open field a fair distance away, maybe an hour as ninja fly, and he summoned a dozen clones. Alright, let's get started. Just remember, this is to get used to working solo. At the chorus of yeah, no sweat, coming from the clones as they each went a distance apart, and began focusing chakra into one hand. Hours would pass as all 13 of them would do this exercise over and over again until dusk arrived. More than once he had to summon new clones as others disintegrated from a loss of concentration and a minor chakra explosion or two. By the time he laid down after washing up and wrapping up his right hand from chakra burns, he was exhausted. A cumulative effect of the training technique. That was easier than Kakashi-sensei. He didn't have a single nightmare the entire night. Naruto woke feeling refreshed and whole in a way different than any other as he rose, stretched, and got dressed. It was time to resume his training. Crawling out of his tent and standing up, he nearly fell backwards as he found Kakashi standing there, eye smiling. Yo, he said, a hand raised in greeting. Ack. Don't do that, he said as he gripped a tree trunk with one hand. Sorry. Figured you'd be about to go and start without me, Kakashi replied as he tossed a bundle to him. Shizen had that cleaned and mended for you. Naruto recognized it as the red and black short-sleeved overcoat he had worn when he first arrived with the toads at the village to battle pain. He set it carefully inside the tent besides the huge toad contract scroll before moving to head further out. There's a field not far from here where I can train. That's good. He paused as he saw a small grin on Naruto's eager face. Seems you found the right words. Yeah, we're going to have lunch later today, so training will be short, he said simply, not letting the jounin see his blush. Leaping up into the trees, he began jumping from branch to branch in the direction of the field. Works for me as we'll be going over the basics at first anyway. I told Yamato and he's good to go when you're ready, Kakashi said as he joined him. Thanks, he replied casually. So what are we going to start with? Just a review which we can go over as we get there, Kakashi said in between leaps. What are the 5 elements which can be applied to chakra manipulations to form jutsu? Fire, wind, lightning, earth, and water. With your elemental defense weakest against the previous and strongest against the successive. Meaning I am weak against fire and strongest against lightning. Good. It also means your offense against that preceding element only feeds their power, Kakashi reminded him. Right. He altered his path as they drew closer. Dropping down to the ground once he arrived, Kakashi landed a moment later. The 2 chakra manipulations you need to create a jutsu? He answered after a moment of thought. Change in chakra form and change in chakra shape. Kakashi nodded in approval and he joined him after plucking 2 leaves from a tree. He handed them to Naruto. Once as you are now. Then again in sage mode, he instructed. Naruto chuckled and went into the open air of the field. Placing the leaf between his 2 palms, he concentrated his chakra into his hands. It took a few moments, but there was a soft crack, and he showed his mentor the split leaf. He took a few minutes to gather nature energy, and entered sage mode before accepting the second leaf. He covered it in his hands and looked down. Krarayakuk. He didn't even need clones this time. He chuckled softly even as he shrugged and shook his head. I see that studying senjutsu has made not only your power increase but your ability to concentrate. Yeah. I had to seriously train on focus and concentration just to get started. He chuckled as he thought over the training he endured with Fukasaku. I would have you split some water, but we don't have a lake to play with this time. Naruto chuckled in agreement. So what then? I mean, I tinkered last night with forming the Rasengan in one hand. I take it you had little success? He asked somberly, but inside he was praying. If you succeeded, then it means once again you're improving too fast and I need to slow you down. Yeah. I kept the number of clones low so it wouldn't stir up the fox. He explained as he moved to form the sign to use the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A good idea. But I recommend using 2 hands. I copied it with my eye, remember? Best to take smaller steps. He nodded and summoned a dozen clones. As they spread out and began, each one striving to form a Rasengan in between their hands. He soon forgot all about Kakashi being there, as he and his duplicates focused with a hard-earned concentration. Staying well out of the way, he glanced left to see Yamato was prepared and well into place using his ability to control the fox's chakra. Just in case. He took out his book and settled in the shade to wait and watch. As time would pass, he would look up whenever he heard a clone get popped or if there was a shout, but overall it was a quiet place filled with the grunts and cries of 13 Narutos. Then silence. He glanced up to see Naruto heading back towards the village. It's that time already, is it, Naruto? Hope your lunch goes well. If anyone deserves a bit of happiness, it's you. Where's he off to so fast? Yamato asked after he released the jutsu and walked over, offering Kakashi a bamboo flute of water. He wasn't at it for long. He has a meeting to keep, Kakashi said lightly, taking a drink through the fabric of the mask and returning it to Yamato before he resumed reading. She woke up flustered from a half-remembered dream, and she bolted from her bed. I still can't believe it. He asked me to have lunch with him. It's not a date, but it's a start. Spinning around languidly, she felt free and whimsical for once in her life. A few half-hearted dance steps later, she began getting dressed, taking out a new and slightly more revealing uniform she wasn't sure if she would have the courage to wear. Not yet, but maybe one day soon. Deciding against temptation to see how she looked in it yet again, she put it away and quickly got into her usual fishnet throat closure with combined tube top, baggy pants, and zip-up sweat jacket. Securing the headband around her neck, right thigh wrapping, and the slender pouch atop that signaled she was ready. Lastly, she applied a tiny bit of accenting makeup. Another first for her, even though her mother had made sure to thoroughly teach her the basic skills. No sense in not trying to look my best. Even if it is in my day-to-days, she thought quietly before brushing her hair back into a loose and lengthy ponytail that heightened the effects of her makeup by leaving the bangs to frame her face. She looked critically in the mirror and sighed. Well, I hope Naruto likes the result, she whispered to her reflection, because I have nothing to base it against. Going to the kitchen, she made a breakfast snack for Neji, thinking he was at practice already. Her father had really taken to training him pretty hard ever since the Chunin exams where he had lost to Naruto, and his passing the following exams had been the fruit of that labor, as was his later promotion to Jonin. But it had also set things up for the continued training after. Walking outside with a tray, she wasn't surprised to see him going through the forms of the gentle fist, the signature martial style of the Hyuga clan. Your parents still haven't. She felt herself flush as his voice trailed off into silence and he stared. What? What is it? She set down the tray and watched him warily. You're wearing makeup, he said as he straightened and approached. You've done your hair differently too. He walked forward adding, and if I'm not mistaken you're wearing perfume? His expression changing to one of distinct curiosity. Yes and yes, she replied simply before, a hand going up to her hair. I'm nervous enough as it is, he doesn't have to stare. His next words surprised her as did the small quick smile that followed. You look nice. Got a date or something? He asked half joking. As if, yes I do. She ignored the look of shock on his face. You seem surprised, but then you're my cousin after all. Others may find me attractive, you know. It was a mark of how her self-esteem and self-image had grown and improved that she said that to him, especially since he had been training her harshly for some time now at her request so she could grow stronger. Who with? He said as he sat down and sipped the tea. He waited for her answer as she sat down on the opposite side of the tray. I wonder if. Why do you want to know? Just what I don't need, Neji going all protective. Well, you know that your father will want to meet whoever it is if you start dating the fellow. Maybe I could help, he said suggestively. I'm meeting up with Naruto. Her eyes widening at his reaction. What? I just knew it, Neji mused, noting her concern and subsequent flush. You know your father may not approve. He wasn't here for Pain's attack and everything, so he won't have the same attitude towards him as others, he cautioned. Though that will change quickly enough, just to a lesser degree since he didn't see it himself. Least I can do is field it when he does return, he offered quietly. Thank you, Neji. I appreciate that. she said, bowing her head quickly before getting to her feet. It's almost time. Good luck, he said as he watched her go. He would have a talk with Naruto later. Make sure he knows there are serious ground rules. If this goes well, his duty was to protect Hinata, as a member of the branch family as well as her cousin. Hero or not, he would allow no improprieties. Not if Naruto wants to live to where he meets Uncle. Getting her sandals on and cinching the ankle straps, she headed out, noticing that many of male clan members were watching her pass by, which boosted her morale quite nicely. It didn't take long before she was at the main gates and outside the wall, heading to the lake that Naruto had mentioned. She felt butterflies fumbling about in her stomach the closer she got. Okay, Hinata, get a hold of yourself. This isn't a date, after all it's just lunch. When she got there, her eyes widened at the sight of the wide waterfall and pond basin. If the rumor was to be believed, this was where Naruto had trained for a week straight to learn his elements change in chakra form with Kakashi-sensei and that other jounin, Yamato Taicho, in order to create that powerful shuriken jutsu of his. She eyed the thick trees, so very high up, growing out of the rock face and connecting to span the width of the waterfall. It's beautiful, she whispered as she looked to the single ground-level tree and saw a figure bustling around in the shade underneath it. Her mouth went dry as she recognized Naruto. He's dressed differently. No orange or black in sight. Using her Byakugan, she got a closer look, and her heart sped up in reaction. Short-sleeved shirt over a fitting t-shirt, loose flowing pants and his sandals. No headband or anything that would indicate his profession as a shinobi. Oh God, he dressed special for this. What do I do? Then she smiled appreciatively as she watched him bend over and shift the position of a picnic basket. He's trying hard to not be nervous, but it shows in everything he's doing. She thought about taking her jacket off but didn't want to push him or seem overeager when she wasn't even sure how he felt for her. Releasing her Byakugan, she took a fortifying breath and walked across the field towards him. Naruto looked up and saw her coming. Immediately, his gut tightened and he was suddenly thirsty. She looks wonderful, he thought while his heart began to speed up. His smile was bright as she arrived and he reached out a hand to her, palm up, in a slow motion. When she took his, he led her onto the cloth and eased her to the ground. He was so glad to have run into Irika-sensei while getting the rice balls, sandwiches, and juice for this. The picnic had been his idea and how to start it off. So far it feels right. He sat down a small distance apart, and he pulled out the contents of the basket, setting them out neatly. I'm really glad you agreed to have lunch with me, he said as he offered her a neatly set up tray of rice balls and sandwiches. In his other hand was a glass of juice. Do I smell perfume? And she looks different up close. Oh God, she's wearing makeup. Calm down, focus and remember to breathe. Taking the item, she felt his hands trembling just slightly, and she hid a smile. She had to admit, she really liked the way his eyes were a little wide and how they looked at her. Kinda like how her clanmates had looked at her earlier, only his was more intense somehow. Maybe because he's so close? Waiting for him to get his own lunch out, she smiled as they gave thanks and began eating, enjoying the companionable yet slightly tense silence. Till she broke the quiet by asking, Naruto-kun, thank you for asking me to join you, but I get the feeling that you wanted to ask me something? He took a drink of juice and set everything aside, half-eaten, to turn and face her. Another Naruto-like thing. He usually talked and ate at the same time. Another hint from Irika-sensei. He nodded slowly and he felt sweat trickling down his spine. Did you mean it? When you said what you did before you faced pain? He ran a hand through his hair. I know it's stupid to ask, but his throat seized as she set down her lunch and turned on her knees to face him and reached a hand out, extending a forefinger and placed it against his lips. Shhhhhhh, she said softly, her smile looking mysterious and knowing at the same time. Hinata didn't know where this boldness and audacity was coming from, but she struggled to keep going even as her cheeks heated and her eyes dilated. I love you, Naruto-kun. Yes, I knew I was probably going to die. I just couldn't die without you knowing how I felt. How I have felt about you for years. She rushed on, not letting him talk, or she would never have the courage to finish. She didn't care if Pain himself grew out of the tree behind them and struck her down. She had to tell him, or it would kill her just as surely. From the time we were at the academy, I have watched you from a distance. When we were assigned to different teams, I felt like my heart shattered. Your words at the Chunin exams gave me heart and wiped away my doubts. Every smile you gave me lifted my spirits to soar in the clouds. She paused to take a breath, unaware that with the very force of her emotions, she was crying. All she saw was him, his eyes widening. I am stronger now. Because of you, I can say this to you. You became my reason for not giving up. For becoming the woman I am. I love you so much, Naruto. Even if you don't love me in return, I have to have you know how I feel. She stopped there, feeling as though she had run a marathon. Emotionally spent and energized at the same time. Her hand dropped to her lap and she looked down, shoulders quaking as she sobbed quietly. He must think I'm pathetic. Who in their right mind just spills their heart out like that? He's going to get up any minute and laugh at me. I just know it. His breathing was rapid and shallow as her words just spilled over, almost tripping in her haste to get them all out. When she finished and just sat there crying, he was amazed that he could feel anything. Words had opened up a torrential downpour of emotions inside him, each one colliding and collapsing against one other. He couldn't sort them out, but there was no way in hell he was going to just leave her hanging like that. He cupped her cheeks and lifted her head gently, like he would cradling a wounded bird. Hinata, look at me. Open your eyes. When their gazes met, he continued on. I won't lie to you, never have, never will. I liked you in the beginning, I said so, remember? It's different now. I don't know what this is that I feel. It's not an instinct thing. Whatever it is, it makes what I felt and feel for Sakura seem like nothing. I don't know if it is love or not, but I want to know if you are willing to find out with me? Okawa, where did that come from? It's absolutely true. It doesn't sound stupid or lame, but did I really just say that? She heard his words almost wilting inside, but as he went on, her hopes rose as did her heartbeat. He's serious. He means every word. But I have to be sure for my own sake. She took several calming breaths though in her state. It was more like breathy hitches and she reached up to wipe her tears but stopped and laughed softly. My makeup is ruined now, a completely frivolous thing to say yet perfectly in keeping considering her age and current situation. Are you asking me to be your girlfriend, Naruto? I have to know. He smiled and spoke gently. Yes. Will you be my girlfriend? Her answer was to jump forward and hug him tightly, whispering in his ear, yes, over and over. She pulled back to look in his eyes again, but then her eyes went wide and wider still as he leaned in and kissed her cheek gently. What? Then in typical Hinata fashion, her face went all hot and everything went black. I don't want to wake up. Not if this is dream, don't wake me up. Even so, her eyes drifted open and her vision cleared. Vision of Naruto peering down at her. She blinked and looked around her carefully, not moving hardly. I fainted again, just great, now where am I? She moved slowly to sit up and looked around her and realized that Naruto had caught her and had rested her head in his lap, using his shirt as a makeshift pillow. He blushed hotly and stammered, sorry. It's okay, I kinda like it. He said. He shifted a few things and leaned back against the tree. I thought I'd be nervous about all this, he said musingly as he stared out, but it feels right natural. Hinata nodded and moved to match him. Mind if I? She asked softly, wanting to hear his thoughts so much and come to know him even better. She laid back and set her head back atop the pillow he had made and folded her hands neatly at her waist. He looked down and smiled, his wrapped hand settling atop hers. When she lifted his hand and looked to him silently in concern, he explained. Training to perfect my chakra control so I can do the Rasengan without a clone. Waited as she looked at his hand worriedly but nodded before settling it back. It'll be fine. You know how fast I recover then, he said softly. You know that I'm a Jinchuriki. That the Kyuubi is sealed away inside me. They were statements, not questions, since so many had seen him transform. You know that some won't approve. I don't care. Hinata said, interrupting him softly. It's my choice and our lives to live. She flushed as she shifted from my to I like that, but it too seemed natural and right. Your new status will quell that. You know. She reached up and tapped his nose playfully, amazed that she thinks so clearly, much less move as she was. Hero of the leaf and all, I may have to stay beside you to chase others away. Her eyes crinkled, and then she giggled. His laughter joined hers. There are no others. And I'm happy with the idea of you staying besides me. It's not me I'm worried about. Think we should be heading back? This was just going to be lunch after all. No, I'm going to be selfish again. Stay here with me today. We may not get another chance like this for a while, she replied sadly. Okay. Dusk was approaching when the pair arrived outside the city walls. Dropping to the ground, they paused before going in, simply staring into each other's eyes and holding hands shyly. I understand you want to wait because he wasn't here when Pain attacked. But I do want to speak with him. It's only right, and I need him to know I respect him and you, his position, and his clan. And then he slowed to a halt as Hinata simply smiled and placed a finger against his lips. I know, but I don't want him to overreact when he first gets back because of what's happened to the village, she said, hoping he wouldn't do anything rash, like ambush him first thing in the morning, which would be so old like him. Let me talk to him first. Okay. Then we can arrange a meeting and you can have your guy talk. She couldn't help but worry at the thought of Naruto butting heads with her father. Come to think of it, it's almost like watching two boulders rolling from opposite hills. Fascinating to watch unless you're in between, oh boy. Alright. I'll follow your lead on this. At least let me walk you home? He said as he prepared to head into the village. Oh, okay. She replied and moved to walk at his side. As they walked, her step and stride matching his, she couldn't help herself but to reach over and curl her pinky around his. Flushing as she glanced over at his face, his cheeks turned rosy but his finger tightened around hers. Not speaking much as they wound through the village, they were a perfect picture of a new couple. Getting closer, he noticed that lanterns were lit. What's that all about? Her eyes widened. Oh, it's so I could find my way home, she said sheepishly. Before the academy I got lost a couple of times, he chuckled. Okay. He paused outside the entryway, turning to look into her silvery eyes. See you soon, very, she replied, stepping upon tiptoe and flushing brightly as she kissed his cheek, a brush of lips against his skin. Then, while he was rooted to the spot, she vanished inside. His hand went to his cheek and swore the skin tingled. He then addressed the owner of the chakra he recognized when they had first arrived and turned to face the growing shadows. Come out, Neji. Naruto, we need to talk. The Jounin said as he stepped into the lantern light. Dressed in usual garb, Neji Hyuga seemed even more somber than usual. Her parents got home tonight and are resting. But I want to know we're not kids anymore. And this is no time for he had been about to say pranks but never got the word out as Naruto's fist connected with his jaw with authority. It wasn't a light hit either. Neji flew back from it, and his back collided with the tree a good 15 feet from where he had been standing, striking hard enough that he gasped hoarsely. Wiping his mouth, he looked up as he moved to stand and froze. What he saw in front of him was an angry Naruto. One that, while showed no signs of the fox, had the sage eyes. The same man, his mind relayed to him, that destroyed the mechanical pain with one blow. He held it back. No, we're not. He agreed with a low growly voice. I pulled that punch, Neji, only because of Hinata. She cares for the well-being of every clan member. You included. He said as he let Sage Mode go and offered a hand to help the semi-stunned man to his feet. Naruto met his gaze head-on and never once blinked. I care for her, and I am serious about dating her. She will talk with her father first once they get over what happened here. Then I will talk with him. Not how I go about it, but it's what she wants. He shrugged as he stepped a pace back from Neji. Not a safe distance, as he knew Neji could strike from a much greater distance with just his fists if he chose. Guess I had that coming, he admitted as he rubbed his jaw. I had to know. Listen, she's my cousin and I want her happy. It's also my duty to protect her even if it costs me my life in doing so. That includes protecting her from anyone who might break her heart, and she has wanted this for so long. His hand curled into a fist as he continued, pointing a finger at Naruto with the other. Break her heart. Naruto hurt her just once, and Sage or not, Jinchuriki or not, I will kill you. Naruto knew that Hyuga was serious and nodded. I would expect no less of you or any of your families. He chuckled as Neji seemed surprised. We want the same thing. Hinata happy. Your warning is noted and I can only promise to do my best. He turned to walk away but stopped when Neji laughed. What? You've made a second promise. I'll have to trust in that. Now you'll have to deal with her father. Yeah. From what your tone and what Hinata has told me of him, he'll be formal and try to intimidate me if he decides I'm not good enough for her. Not like that'll stop me, possibly. Neji said somberly. How will you handle it? Same as I do everything else. Head on. A shake of the head, just what I thought you'd say. Good luck with that. He resumed walking, hand in the air, waving somewhat. Yeah? Later, Neji watched him go, rubbing a jaw that would be very sore by morning. I've got your measure now, Naruto. I think I'll pray we never meet as adversaries. You've changed more than I thought. He made his way back to the western gate deep in thought, making it outside before they closed for the night. He would sleep eventually, he hoped. Got a lot to sort through, hands in his pockets, he headed on to his tent. Getting cleaned up and dressed for the night, he laid back on his pallet roll and stared at nothing. I do care for her in a way different than I ever did for Sakura. But love? I just don't know. Hard to describe what you've never known. He shook his head and let his eyes close. He would have to talk with someone, maybe, though that would be a hard topic to go over. Then again, maybe not. All I can do now is face what comes and deal with it head on, like I said. Bright red, she dashed inside and peered around the corner when she heard Naruto call out her cousin. What is he doing? Did he see? Her mouth formed an O when Naruto suddenly clocked Neji and sent him flying to collide with a tree. What the? She started to go forward but stopped when Naruto helped Neji to his feet and they talked for a moment, suddenly confused as they parted ways. I don't understand, what was that all about then? Unless, damn you Neji, I thought you of all people would be more subtle. Hope you got what you were after. She whispered before disappearing into the washing tents. Once well out of sight of any that might enter, she stripped down and washed, thoroughly removing any signs of her makeup and perfume before wrapping up in a towel to go and enjoy a soak. Turning a curtain corner, she heard voices in the soak area and she paused as she recognized her mother talking with Hanabi, her sister, so the lantern code was correct. Mother and father are both home. Her thoughts vanished, and she was very quiet when Hanabi spoke up. Where is father? He is in an emergency meeting with the families, finding out what happened and has been going on since, replied their mother. Then he'll be in for a surprise, Hanabi said with a giggle. Oh? She asked, and Hinata could almost see her mother's eyebrow rise. Yeah, Hinata has been running things for the clan really well since the attack. Within hours after the attack, she had the clan working overtime and doing whatever it took to find trapped survivors and who knows what else. Really? She asked with a lift in her voice indicating surprise. That's good. She has always tried to watch out for the clan. Maybe this will get him to change his mind. But I doubt it. About what? Hanabi asked curiously. Hinata leaned in to listen closely. Yes, mother, about what? She wondered as well, though she had an idea already. Well, her mother said hesitantly, unaware her older daughter was listening and unsure if the younger was mentally ready for such news. Your father has decided, or will decide soon enough, that you will be heir to the clan leadership. Not Hinata, Wayot? The girl said in shock, but Hinata's older, she understands things much better than me, she's prettier too, which doesn't matter to him. Hinata said as she came around the corner, sending both ladies into spasms of shock. Head held high, she set aside her towel and eased into the water with a grateful sigh. Dunking herself and re-emerging, she moved to a comfortable spot and looked at the two with an expression of false serenity. Your Byakugan and skill in gentle fist is growing rapidly. Soon enough you will be at the academy, and it wouldn't surprise me if people begin to compare you to Neji as a shinobi prodigy. You know how hard he had your tutors training you, she said in a smooth voice that actually had her mother flushing. Besides, your drive to excel has always been greater than mine. In those areas at least. Until recently, that is. Now that I have focused more on my own reasons to grow stronger, well, we'll see. Now Hinata, you know that isn't true, her mother began placatingly but stopped at Hinata's soft laugh. Mother, you know as well as I that father has always considered me a disappointment. That's why he had me trained under Kurenai-sensei. He even said it then, he was considering of skipping me in favor of Hanabi as I was too timid and weak. She nodded, her mother's surprised expression. I always thought you knew, but it doesn't change the truth, she said, noting that Hanabi was staring between the two of them and trying hard not to be noticed. Relax, Hanabi. I accepted this some time ago in father's eyes. I don't measure up. She went silent as her mind was reeled. What in the world has gotten into me? How could I talk to them like this? It's like I have no control over my lips. Her mother began laughing quietly, then harder, and she had to pause and waved Hinata and Hanabi silent until she got it under control. Sorry, it's just I have waited a long time for this. For you to finally open up and begin speaking your mind. Finally, she eyed her eldest with genuine happiness. We can have the talks like I and my mother had when I climbed out of my shell. She nodded at their shock. I was so much like Hinata when I was a girl. Shy to the point of speechlessness. Timid against a stiff breeze. I eventually grew out it. Her smile became wistful. When I first met your father, dears, then she blinked, but that should not be a discussion for the bath. Hanabi, go and get ready for bed, she said with a clap of her hands. It's not the best time, but Hinata and I need to have a talk. Privately. The next several minutes passed slowly as Hanabi protested and sulked and took her time leaving, complaining that it wasn't fair the whole time. Only once they were as alone as they could get, considering, her mother turned to her and truly relaxed in the bath. Waiting for Hinata to begin fidgeting nervously to begin, she looked up at the starry sky and said slowly but firmly, the winter iris has always been my favorite flower. They blossom and bloom only under specific circumstances. And then they glow in their time. She glanced to see her daughter's puzzled expression. She chuckled. Those were my mother's first words to me that day. I had come home from the academy changed, and she took me aside to have this talk. Come on, Hinata put the pieces together. I was as confused then as you are now, I bet. I don't understand. Then she stopped and resumed. The Hyuga kunoichi are like that flower? She asked. Somewhat. With few exceptions, the girls who become kunoichi from our family are like Hanabi. Focused, driven, practically gung-ho. Her mouth twisted wryly. Some even called them butch. She looked back to the sky and continued. But invariably there would be shy ones. The ones who wouldn't stand out from the crowd, until they met someone that drew them out of their shells. Then they reveal who they truly are. Like the flower that stays hidden in the snow. Never seen until they blossom and then bloom in their glory. She chuckled and saw that Hinata was staring her awestruck. I know your father has underrated you all this time, and soon he will see he has completely underestimated you. So who is the boy? She asked directly, her sharp gaze noting how her daughter flushed deep and paused several times, unable to say anything. If you won't say his name, then I will ask, is it this Naruto we heard about? The fox kid? He's not that fox kid, mother. His name is Uzumaki Naruto. He has grown up with almost no support from anyone, and has become so strong because of it. He faced off against pain when he attacked. You should have seen him. He was incredible, she trailed off, fuming. An anger that disappeared as her mother smiled widely and pointed at her. He is not someone to be avoided and put down. They call him the hero of the leaf now. Everyone respects him and trusts him without question, so I was right. Only that kind of strength can draw us out. If I remember right, you were infatuated with him long before now, only now, you're able to express it. What has happened? She asked suddenly, her eyes narrowing. Not that, she said quickly, flushing almost to a fainting point at the thought. I told him how I feel. Thanks for putting that in my mind, mother. I can't even begin to think about that. She relaxed perceptibly. Well, that's good. At least I don't have to worry about that now. She said with a shake of her head, the point I am making, Hinata, is that once you blossom, you will have a newfound strength of mind and purpose. He gestured around her. As you've shown tonight, O Hayashi, how you have made a mistake. Our daughter is a woman now. It's time you remember that the women of Hyuga are far from weak. She took a breath. I take it then you want to let him know you are together? Ah, yes. Well, it would be best if it came from Naruto-chan. Your father is old-fashioned. He will want to get his measure before he agrees to anything of this sort. And that's if he approves. A big if at that. I can't say how he would react to the thought of you dating someone outside the clan. At least I won't have to tell her about his plans for her. With everything going on here, that'll be postponed for some time. Months, hopefully. I know. Naruto has agreed to wait until things settle down a bit before coming to see father. It was her turn to chuckle. I had get him to promise to wait until I told him it was okay. I can guess he was willing to camp outside the compound till you and he got back. That is good. It may take a bit of time for him to get things under control here, she said in agreement, plus I can have time to work on him. Get him to think of Naruto as more than the little prankster that was always in trouble or making mischief. Only now did her mother see just how much her daughter had grown. She waved as her eldest left, saying she was going to sleep. She has come into her own. I think I need to speak with him myself. And it's only right that if I am going to intercede for them, that I see them with my own eyes. A month passes slowly for some. He was still being watched. It's been 4 weeks now. Who the hell is it, and what do they want? Like it had in the beginning, it had begun shortly after he got to the field where Yamato Taicho was waiting for him, and they resumed his training. Through the training, as he used shadow clones to help him figure out the control issues. During the break for a snack they both him and Yamato needed. For him it was the cumulative fatigue factor, but Yamato needed the break due to the strain it placed him under over time. He may have the first Hokage cells, but he didn't have the same level of control, so it took more effort on his part. It didn't go away until around midday when he left for the village. It was always back by the time he met up with Hinata for her lunch break. Who or whatever it was that was following him was good. He never got so much as a glimpse of them the whole time. It would follow him until the end of the day, and he was heading outside the village for the night. Then it was be back the next day. He was past tired of this. So today, when he knew that neither Yamato Taicho nor Kakashi-sensei would join him, he planned to end it. He sensed his spy's arrival and spun from his position of forming a Rasengan to throwing a kunai knife unerringly towards his target. It landed with a thunk in a bush and exploded thanks to the paper bomb he had attached. Bright blue eyes scanned the area as he called out, "You've been everywhere for a month now. Time to give up the pretenses, don't you think?" His voice called out brashly, even as his hand slid to his pouch to retrieve another knife or a shuriken. The trio that appeared from the forest on foot made him freeze. 2 men and a woman. All of them Hyuga, based on the swirl flame patches on their left shoulders and the silvery eyes. "What the?" he stammered before straightening, the kunai hanging from his hand by its ring. His fingers tightened around the hilt, and his eyes narrowed. "Do I know you?" he asked quietly of the 3 people that approached. The men wore the garb of jounin and had resolute expressions that told him they were the woman's bodyguards. As for her, she was dressed in a standard ninja flak jacket over a loose dark navy jumpsuit. Her hair was dark and held back in a very long ponytail that hung down to her waist. Her gaze was curious, head-titled. Yet it was the combined features of her fare that made her seem so familiar. The woman was definitely in charge as they came to a stop and her hand flickered back. Her 2 guards moved to what appeared to be a discreet distance. "I am Hinata's mother," she replied in a cool voice. Her silvery eyes narrowed as she used the clan's bloodline ability. "You have an amazingly strong chakra network, and the feel of it is different. Hinata's MO mother?" His eyes widened and he hurriedly put away the kunai. Now that he knew, he could see the resemblance. Kinda like seeing Hinata 10 or 20 years from now. Wow. "You've been following me?" he asked in amazement. "So you knew? Interesting. My reports on you said you were rash and reckless. Prone to brash action and no regard for consequences. You have developed a measure of patience and guile. You did very well hiding the fact you were aware of us. You waited a month before confronting us and did so on your terms and territory, though a notable lack of backup. An indication of overconfidence bordering on arrogance. She didn't look away as she pointed to the smoking pockmark where the bush had been. Your aim was perfect, as was your timing with the paper bomb." Her analysis finished, and she tilted her head a bit more. "It didn't mention the level of focus and determination, nor your skills with chakra manipulation." She glanced around at the field and noted the mini craters that were everywhere. Or developing control, I should say. Her eyes went back to his face. "Well, why? Would have been easier just to come up and talk. Why the spying?" he asked, not understanding at all. She drew a kunai and launched herself at him in response. Her attack was sudden, unerring aim with perfected skill and muscle control. Her eyes went wide as her knife sliced through air, and he suddenly disappeared from the view of her Byakugan. Only to be replaced by over 3 dozen shadow clones, all of them narrow-eyed and focused with kunais in hand. She couldn't tell them apart at all. Neji was correct. His chakra control when it comes to shadow clones is without equal, so many all with identical signatures. So she attacked them all using her every skill and talent. One by one they poofed under her combined dagger and fist assault, leaving only the one. This one she went all out on and was in shock as it went up in a poof of smoke almost as soon as she pinned it. Off balance and slightly out of practice, her breath caught when she felt fingertips touching the back of her exposed neck and a kunai's sharp point pressed against her diaphragm where he had slid it up and in from below the flak jacket she wore. Oh my god, when did he develop such precision and speed? I may be out of practice, but this is insane. Don't move, she said as the guards started to move in. It seems he has us outclassed. Her tone writhed shaky. Naruto removed the kunai and backed away to a respectful distance. Are you satisfied, Lady Hyuga? He asked as he eyed her warily. He kept a prepared stance, not letting his guard down. Cautious good. No holes in his defensive stance. Ready to move in any direction possible. Good lord, when did he improve so radically? The report said nothing about any of this. If only he was Hyuga, he'd be perfect. Except the whole Jinchuriki thing, otherwise I'd drag him myself to Hayashi. That still leaves the claim of oh yes, show me this sage mode or senjutsu of yours, I need to see it for myself. She gestured and it was the guard's turn, though they quickly slid to a halt and backed away at his response. He took a deep breath and brought his fists together and was absolutely still. A stillness that was completely inhuman. An orange flare developed around his eyes, and when he opened his eyes they were yellow and the pupil was sideways. The very air around him was shimmering like a heat wave centered about him only, and rocks on the ground shook visibly. Is this what you wanted to see? He asked as he knew they would see his chakra change completely to their eyes. To say they were in a state of complete shock was putting it mild. His chakra seemed to melt into something altogether unknown, alien yet natural in a way beyond description. Their minds could only transcribe it as a color shift, from the blue tint they were accustomed to a wild, untamable, and vivid green that extended around him like a thick cloak covering him completely. It flowed into him from everywhere and out of him to return from whence it had come. How is that possible? One of them whispered in awe and a hint of fear. He stepped back once, then again, until he was close to Hinata's mother. A moment later the second guard joined them. Nature energy. Naruto responded as he settled into sage mode and stared at them. It melds with my chakra and transforms it into sage chakra, which is many times more powerful. His explanation made sense, yet they couldn't fathom the other changes. In sage mode I don't have to make contact to strike. My strength and resistance to injury is magnified, as is my speed, he said bluntly as he released the nature energy so to get out of sage mode and return to his normal self. Once he changed back, they relaxed and she laughed. You are definitely full of surprises, Naruto-chan. I honestly don't know of a single shinobi that I have met that could hold a candle to you. She put away her dagger and tilted her head once more. I see why my daughter loves you. You are stubborn, self-confident almost to the point of arrogance, yet not without cause nor the ability to back it up. Your lack of parental influence has made you self-reliant to an extreme, and yet you have a sense of humility whenever you're with her. A profound strength and power tempered by an equally profound tenderness where she is concerned. You are a complete and total self-contradiction. She began laughing aloud as she turned to leave. You must be a sheer whirlwind to the senses. Thank goodness I'm married already and Hinata's my daughter. She winked at him over her shoulder. Or I'd be tempted to chase you down for myself. She laughed even louder as she disappeared with her guard following suit. He was flushed from the fight and a bit unnerved by that woman. What did she? Oh God, with her father firmly in control of clan matters, she found herself with a lot more time for herself. Especially now that things were beginning to take shape in the village. The rubble had been cleared and everything salvageable had been gathered. Instead of filling in the crater and rebuilding the village atop it, they used the crushed rock and earth to form a flat top at the bottommost area. The circumference of the crater left a 20-foot wide walkway perfect to act as an inner perimeter. At the flat top, crews of craftsmen from all over the Fire Country had converged and plied their trades with gusto. The village will never be the same, but out of adversity grows the strongest of trees. The walls of the crater had been cut away to form sheer cliffs and open the area as much as possible. Inside already buildings were started, reforming the grid work that set up necessary for the village to exist in the space allowed. Walking along the top of the village's protective wall, she could only look and marvel at the resiliency of the people who called the village hidden in the leaves home. Sections were already going up and she could see trees being planted. Thanks to her Byakugan, that is. Taking the stairs down to outside ground level at one of the watch posts, she thanked the guards there for letting her up top. Walking into the inner perimeter, she smiled to the gate guards and took the sloped rampway down to the inner levels. Hinata! Wait up! She paused as she saw her mother and her two bodyguards approaching. Her mother dressed in field garb and looking as serene as ever. But the twinkle in her mother's silvery eyes told her she was inordinately pleased about something. Mother, you were outside? Why are you dressed like that? She indicated the gear as they all fell into step with her, and they walked to the bottom of the ramp and took the main street into what would soon be the village proper. What have you been up to? Oh, just a chat with your Naruto-kun. That's all. A chat? She mimicked softly, then her gaze sharpened. You decided to see for yourself? Tired of sending others to spy? She shook her head at her mother's feigned innocence. Mother, you've had someone following Naruto for a month. You were lucky he didn't do something rash. He could have taken that as a prelude to an ambush or attack on the village. Since Painwell, he doesn't take that lightly. Having tussled with him, I can only agree it wasn't the smartest thing to do, but it was informative. I see now why you love him so. She told her eldest every detail of their encounter from start to finish. I can't believe you, Mother, she said, giggling. So now that you see that we are serious, I will have to talk with your father. But only once he comes to talk with him. Now is the time, go tell your boyfriend to come around tomorrow. Your father doesn't have any meetings until well after lunch. Hinata hugged her mother and nodded. I'll go now. Then her eyes widened. He knows I told you, she exclaimed in concern. How do I explain that? When I was the one, child, think. For the past month you two have been seen practically arm in arm everywhere. Word could have gotten to me from anyone. Now shoo and tell your man. She glanced at the top of the ramp and sighed. Oh dear, looks like he found us first, better go calm him down. I'm not sure if he understands exactly why I did what I did. Hinata turned and looked as Naruto began heading their way, an intent expression on his usually carefree face. Oh, this isn't going to be easy. Even with that in mind, she couldn't help but smile as he approached, her eyes showing her feelings for all to see. She sighed in joy as his arms slid around her waist, and he whispered his greetings into her hair. It was a comforting act uniquely him. The scent of him filled her nose and her heart sped up and her arms clenched at his jacket tightly. This has to be heaven. I don't care who's watching. Oh God. Mother. Stepping out of his embrace very reluctantly, she then formally introduced her mother. We've met, he replied with a nod and a smile. Since you know about us, I want to know what you intend. The words coming out somberly as he slid a free arm around her waist, as though needing the contact and drawing strength from it. That is a bit backwards, don't you think, Naruto-chan? Her mother replied with an arched eyebrow, which caused Naruto to blink. She was all business now. Teasing and flirting was a game to this woman, one she was well versed on how to play. But I will explain, since Hinata is pretty much distracted. I challenged you earlier because I needed to get a sense of who you are. The real you, Naruto-chan. Without my daughter's presence to influence your actions, not that I could say that out loud, and more important than that, to see how you conducted yourself when you were with my daughter. Your reputation is not the greatest. She forestalled him by holding a hand up. That has changed greatly since you returned almost a year ago with Jiraiya-sama, I'll admit. And I saw you act like a gentleman with my eldest. Not counting the kisses in the shadows. Her eyes crinkled a bit in hidden humor, but that disappeared. Now tomorrow, you will report to the clan compound and speak with my husband. You've had a month and you haven't abused that time. The last of her words went unspoken, yet it was a cold reminder. If he doesn't approve, you'll never see her again. Now go, and I'll let him know to expect you. She turned and walked on, disappearing around a corner with her guards following closely. Enjoy this time, it may be your last together. Hinata began trembling the moment her mother was out of sight, not looking up at Naruto. She felt tears gathering in the corners of her eyes already. She gasped as her head was titled up and her gaze was caught by a pair of bright blue ones that shone with a fire and determination. Blushing profusely, she started to say something, but words were lost as his lips claimed hers. Suddenly her hands gripped his shoulder and jacket, stepping up even closer to him. I love you so, Naruto. She returned the kiss and was panting softly when it ended. A single tear fell and she felt him capture it with a fingertip. Tomorrow, huh? His voice was raspy and his jaw set, a sure sign that he was as affected by the kiss as she. Then we have tonight, he said gently as he caught the tear. I think I know what to do. He led her down the streets, gathering up some supplied for a picnic. Like when we first talked. His smile was sincere and caring, but he felt a strain in his face and a fear growing in his heart. I can't lose you too. I won't. She nodded as they left, and he left word at the gate so that Hinata could return after dark without causing any problems. She saw one of them smile towards them and chuckle. She flushed as if she could sense their thoughts. He couldn't be thinking of that. It's only been a month since we started dating. She saw where they were heading and her breath caught. Back where we were a month ago, when I first told him, the potential relevance didn't sink in until they were both laying back staring at clouds. We've come full circle, haven't we? She asked at long last, the sky darkening. I wanted this time to be as special as that day, he replied, rolling onto an arm to look at her. I won't lie and say the thought of meeting your dad doesn't scare me. It does. One word from him and her fingertips stopped his lips. No, don't say it. I don't want to hear it or think about what could be. Right now is all that matters, she said softly, her lip trembling. Just tonight, no yesterday, no today, no tomorrow. She whispered, leaning forward and down to plant a soul-wrenching kiss on him. One born of love and need. She pressed harder against him with her hands until he rolled onto his back and she shifted to lay against his side. Kissing him again as her hands tangled in his hair, holding him in place with a desperate strength. Eyes closed as she nearly sobbed at the sheer joy of the moment, and fear she felt at the mere whisper that it may be over between them. Hi Hinata, he gasped in between kisses. Then he quit thinking and trying to say anything. His arms worked around her waist, and he tightened his arms, returning the kiss with all the feeling he had. When she raised her head, eyes unfocused, and he saw her lips were puffy, he said softly, Hinata, I love you too. She gasped at his declaration, eyes suddenly focused on his face as the shock brought her back down to earth. He said it. Oh my God, he said it, heart pounding. She could only stare at him, feeling his hands on her waist and hips. I've never known love, I had no idea it was so. He paused, trying to get the words right, though the way her fingers were playing in his hair was making thought nearly impossible. I didn't recognize it, for it was until now. When the threat of losing you, it made me realize I won't survive on my own again. For that not to happen, I have to get his approval. I will get his approval, he promised as he kissed her forehead. She laid her head on his chest, listening the racing heartbeat, finding small comfort in his words as she worried. There's nothing I can do or say that will change father's mind if he decides against us. It will all be up to Naruto. I have to trust in him. I do trust him. He felt her tension ease bit by bit, yet he said nothing as he began planning on what to say and what not to say. They bolted up from their intertwined positions as Neji came running towards them. Hinata, you have to get back now. Your mother sent me to tell you it's urgent, he said breathlessly. Took me all afternoon just to find you. You have to hurry, he said, bent at the waist, breathing hard. She nodded and kissed Naruto quickly before she took off for the village at full speed. Neji, what happened? Is everything all right? No, her father has announced that a tournament is going to be held, he gasped out before sitting down. His gaze was intent on Naruto's. 10 members of various branches are the competitors. The winner gets Hinata's hand. What? He plans to marry her off since he decreed Hanabi-san will inherit clan leadership. Lady Hyuga sent me to tell you after Hinata left. She'll tell her herself. I am so sorry, Naruto, I really am. You two have been so happy, it's not right. His hand drifted to his forehead unconsciously. She told me to tell you everything. And he did, word for word. Neji wasn't surprised to see Naruto's eyes glow red. I see, well then, I have no choice but to ruin his plans. Then he began chuckling. I'll need your help and others that know me. He explained his plan quickly, shocking Neji that the usually dim-witted Naruto improvised such a devious plan so damn fast. When he finished, Neji couldn't help himself but laugh hard as he got to his feet. You'll have the help you need. I swear it. Many of both families respect you and have placed their faith and trust in you. Some of them will go along with this. Just you cannot be late. I won't be. He watched as Neji rose and began rushing to get back to the compound. He turned and without thinking, formed a Rasengan in his hands and destroyed a section of the field in sheer rage. He breathed heavily before his mind caught up to him, and he looked at his hands. Then he smiled darkly. I won't be late. Hinata will be counting on me. With that he began making his preparations. Morning came and went, Hinata not rising from the bed she had collapsed onto in sheer exhaustion and heart-aching misery. Hanabi had followed her, commiserating her older sister's pain. Her mother had been outraged, but not even she could change his mind. Hinata had tried as well, using every tactic she had at her disposal to get her father to forget the idea. Nothing had worked. Now she laid there staring out a window flap at what was going to be a glorious day. I'm dead inside. I'm sorry, Naruto, we never had a chance. I should have pressed for something more between us. At least we would have had that memory to hold on to. She didn't answer as someone knocked on her tent flap. She barely stirred as Neji called to her. Hinata, it's time. You have to get up and get ready. Go away, Neji, I won't watch this. Cows don't get to choose which butcher they are bought by. Why should I? Any chance I had of happiness is gone. Neji winced at her scathing words, deep down marveling at how she had matured that she could do even that. Her self-confidence and self-esteem had grown during their short relationship. He looked around and slid inside. Listen, it's important you're there. If you aren't, it will all fall apart. His tone sounding near panicked. Get a grip, Hinata, we are depending on you. Even if he shows up at the perfect moment and makes his claim, he will draw strength and resolve from seeing you. That got her attention. What? What do you mean? She looked at him over her shoulder. What will fall apart? He took a breath. Trust me when I say it will be very important for you to be there. I can't say more than that. Please. He jerked and dashed back outside, pausing to just say one word. Naruto. What? He couldn't be? He wouldn't? She paused as she thought over everything clearly, then leapt to her feet and made a mad dash to get cleaned up and washed. She had to be there. The tournament started, and it was a long process, as each of the 10 combatants were experts of various levels at gentle fist combat, using their respective byukugans, as well as implementing all the skills they had learned from being shinobi. Which meant that none of the 9 matches were quick. By the late afternoon, the final match was winding down. Sitting at the dais in front was the ruling family. Centered was Hayashi, dressed formally as the situation required. His wife knelt to his immediate right. Left was Hinata and Hanabi in accordance to age. On opposite sides of the arena sat the head family and branch family, everyone wearing their best. He glanced at his immaculately dressed and utterly infuriated wife, sighing. She was still refusing to speak to him. Moving into Hanabi's room in protest over his use of an ancient clan practice. His eyes drifted left to observe his daughters. Both also dressed in their most formal kimonos and neither speaking to him, though he noted that Hinata had adorned skillfully applied hints of makeup that made her beauty more visible to the eye. Not once had she fidgeted or looked away from the contests. Maybe she has realized it's in her best interests. He looked out and saw that the entire clan was watching in silence as the finalists fought with everything they had. At least this has been a good showing of talent. It reaffirms our position as a powerhouse within the village and further maintains clan stability by letting our youth show off to reassure the elders in our future. A cry went up from the crowd and it was over. The sole-standing man straightened after finally piercing his opponent's guard and winning the match. He was a decent-looking fellow, breathing heavily and flush with victory as he walked towards the dais and bowed deeply to the current head of the clan. "My lord, I am victorious," he said with a glance to Hinata, looking for a sign of approval from her. And failing utterly. His shoulders drooped ever so slightly. Hayashi raised a hand and spoke aloud. "The tournament is over. And as the victor is decided, so too is my choice." For he stopped as he felt an unfamiliar and extremely powerful presence approaching too rapidly to be on foot. The tents folded down as Hyuga shinobi rushed and grabbed tent poles to lower those tent sections, and there was a huge explosion at the back of the arena. Smoke billowed up and loose debris flew, obscuring even his heightened vision. "Guards," he said, waving the smoke from his eyes, what as his throat caught as he heard Hinata exclaim in joy when a voice called out. "Oh no 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 no, it can't be, Naruto! He came! He really came! Father will be furious, but I don't care, he came for me." It was only because Hanabi gripped her arm tightly that she didn't rush to her boyfriend's side and tell her father to go to hell. "Hyuga Hayashi-san, your tournament is not over. I claim the right to challenge." There were cries of shock all around as the voice rang out clearly and with an authority that echoed in the makeshift arena. The dust began to settle, yet the white smoke began to swirl faster and faster until it was a swirling vortex, before it dissipated. And suddenly they saw what had appeared in their midst, a gigantic orange toad with yellow eyes and purplish species markings. A navy vest-like garment was worn loosely about its body. It shifted slightly and the forehands could be seen wearing black gloves, one of which had risen to its side to grip a zatoichi that protruded. It had taken a precautionary stance as it saw the many people gawking at him. A straight stem pipe protruded from its lips as he inhaled and blew a short puff of smoke upwards. She recognized the toad. She had seen it the very day that pain had attacked. Hinata gasped in shock at the radical growth he had undergone. "It's been barely over a month since I saw you. That day you have grown huge." Her gaze traveled upward and she saw the figure standing atop the toad's head with arms crossed as though he dared anyone to try and budge him. Her breath caught at the expression on his face and the fact that the orange flares were clearly visible around his eyes that matched the toad's completely. "He looks just as set as he did that horrible day over a month ago," she thought as her eyes roamed over him as though she was savoring his presence. Dressed not in his usual jumpsuit of orange and black, he wore his funeral clothes of jet black. Top, pants, sandals and belt were dark as night, his gaiters the purest of whites. No insignias visible outside the leaf headband he wore so proudly. Over that darkness he wore his red and black sleeveless overcoat, and the toad contract scroll rested against his lower back. A wide leather shoulder strap crossed his torso diagonally from his left shoulder to right hip. He was a glorious sight to her eyes. "He's come prepared for full battle, please don't let it come to that." She realized her hands were trembling, and she clasped them together almost as if in prayer to stop them. It was Hayashi that found his throat suddenly gone dry as he stared at the more than a little intimidating intruder. He coughed, and then spoke in what he felt was a commanding tone. "This is a Hyuga clan matter, and as such you have no claim." He ignored the slight catch in his voice, but his jaw dropped at Naruto's reply. "By your own words, Hayashi-sama, any man who wishes to compete must present himself before the final victor is announced. I hold you to your given word." His voice was calm and controlled, but the aggressive tone was easily heard. "Your words did not say any Hyuga take that. You sanctimonious Sonova." Neji was impressed to this point. Naruto's timing had been absolutely perfect, and his appearance was daunting. He wanted to shout when he countered the first argument to be fired yes. Well done, waiting like everyone else for the next exchange. Only he noticed the nods given to him by the men who had reset the tents so no one outside the arena could see what was happening. This was a Hyuga matter after all, just no one told Naruto what that meant exactly. "The stage is set, use the tools you were given well." Hayashi choked back a venomous retort. He had looked around and saw many elders nodding at that upstart's reply. He lost that volley, but aid came from an unexpected source. It was Hanabi that spoke up. "So noted. On what right do you place claim?" she asked, ignoring the heated stare coming from her older sister. "As my noble father has said, this is a Hyuga affair and only a greater right can supersede it. Otherwise, you waste our time and yours. Come on, you know what I'm doing." Hinata Naruto hit me with your best comeback. One lunar cycle ago, your elder sister, Hyuga Hinata, gave her heart and her love to me. Since then, I have given her mine. My claim is placed upon the right of love spoken beneath moon and stars. Voice freely and without restraint. I claim the right to protect my girlfriend from an unjust action placed upon her. God, I sound ridiculous, but if it works, then who am I to argue? He thought as he recited the formula he had found written in, of all places, Make Out Paradise. Hanabi's voice could easily be heard as she fired right back. Love is indeed a powerful emotion. It can make a fool of anyone. Is this your only and true reason? Or is this a disgraceful attempt on your part to salve your ego or to save face? Naruto's answer was as blunt. I have come to fight for my girlfriend. I have no need of any other motivation. Like I care she's a Hyuga and heir to the seat. To me she's Hinata. The first and only person who has said they love me for me. Very well. I removed my objections. Her voice rang with a note of pleasure that made her father want to glare at her in accusation. There was a heavy stillness in the air as every person held their breath for what would transpire next. No one had any idea of what it would be, so there was a gasp when Hayashi's wife spoke up. The winner of this tournament must be a man of unquestionable skill and strength, since virtue is often unknown or suspect. This man, she pointed to the Hyuga that was right then turning paler by the moment, has fought and defeated others to earn his right to my daughter's hand. What makes you believe in your worthiness to combat him for my daughter's hand? He didn't hesitate to reply in a ringing voice as his gaze never once left Hinata's face. She looks amazing. Focus, focus, I am the Toad Sage of MT Maiboku, master of the Rasengan. Completing that to forge the Rasen Shuriken. I am the one who defeated Pain. I am the hero of the leaf. He stopped, not wanting to use the appellation the villagers had placed on him, but he would use any advantage presented to him. I see. Weighty accomplishments indeed. Proof visible as you stand there with the markings of a sage atop a warrior toad for all to see. Your claim to the techniques are known by all and verified as they were seen when you did defeat Pain. Yet I need more. You are called hero by many in this village and even by some within this clan, but is there anything else you can tell us to prove your worth? Say it, you, pig-headed hyperactive, please let my instincts be right. I am Uzumaki Naruto, son of Namake's Minato, the Yandame Hokage. This last bit made every single person, young and old, gasp in shock. Like everyone in the village, Hinata had only heard the Yandame had used a child just born with his umbilical still freshly cut. As for his own child? The story went that child had died with its mother. How is this even remotely possible? She wondered, wanting to ask for greater details. She then looked around and saw identical expressions on the face of everyone. Only her father's expression held no surprise, just growing rage. Did he already know? How is it that he knew all this time and said nothing? Then she knew. The Sandame's taboo. That's how. No one is allowed to talk about that night. The Lady Hyuga merely nodded, fighting hard to keep from smiling in sheer pleasure as her theory had been right, and replied, my objection is removed. Excellent. The first secret is out. Others will spread this to the whole village, and there will be no reason whatsoever for anyone to look down on him. Hayashi saw it then. His own family had done this to him. He was only doing what he felt was best for his daughter and for the clan. He spoke up then as an idea came to him. He was almost boxed in. Almost, but not quite. All of that is well and good, Uzumaki Naruto. By your own words, you are not a Hyuga. Therefore you must, since you insist on taking part, be sponsored by no less than 6 clan members who feel you. His voice trailed off as people began to stand up. While not the first, Neji was amongst them. As was Hinata, Hanabi, and his wife. He quickly counted and saw that more than a couple members from each faction were represented in this show of support for that damned Jinchuriki. His eyes narrowed and lips thinned as he said, very well. You will compete. In 1 week from tomorrow. It is unfair that you, who have not fought even once, compete against one who is worn out. My lord? I withdraw, as I have no desire to fight against this man. I know my strength and limits. I would not be a satisfactory test of his skill nor convictions. Not to mention, if what people say about him is true, I don't stand a chance. Mama didn't raise me to be a fool. Hayashi looked down the dais at the man in shock. Why, you little spineless? Then he nodded and smiled as he found a perfect solution. Then it will be against me. At the appointed time we will face against each other. If victory is yours, my daughter's hand is as well. Should I win, you will never see my daughter again nor attempt to have any contact with her. You will sever your relationship with her completely. No, Hayashi-sama, I will not fight you for her hand. Naruto replied, ignoring the shocked sounds that resounded yet again. I, however, will fight you for the right to continue dating her without interference nor restriction. Anything beyond will be by her choice and decision. I fight for our love and our right to be together. You just made it so I have to defeat you. Old man, I can't afford to lose. So be it. Was Hyuga Hayashi's reply as he stood and led his traitorous family off the dais and into the compound. Cheers and much clapping sounding behind him. He neither knew nor cared that the applause was for him as much as it was for Naruto. Neji turned to face Naruto as he jumped down off Gamakichi's head, and everyone dispersed quickly, though they spoke in small groups animatedly about the fight to come. Naruto, that was actually amazing. You handled yourself and the situation admirably well. I have to admit I am impressed. Before Naruto could respond, a slightly deep voice emanated from above their heads. Of course you are. He arrived with me. A boisterous laugh from the giant orange toad. I'm impressive all on my own. He looked down and gave them both a wink. Remember, Naruto, you owe me. Later, and he chuckled anew as he went back to the land of Toad in a loud poof of smoke. I won't forget, Gamakichi. 3 bags full of snacks as tribute for you and your brother each. He laughed and accepted well wishes from others who passed by and offered him their verbal support for the upcoming battle. Surprised as even now he was unused to such a public showing of support from people that used to label him as unfit for anything, not even good enough to stay in the village. Waiting till they were alone to walk Naruto through the maze of semi-constructed buildings and tents, he asked in a low voice, You have succeeded to this point. What's your next move? Please let it be inspired, he's going to need it. He ran a hand through his spiky hair, smiling abashed. Well, To tell you the truth, I hadn't planned beyond this point. I mean, he trailed off then resumed despite the amazed expression on Neji's face. I thought I'd be fighting that other guy. Not Hinata's dad. I've got a week to improvise a new plan or alter what I was going to do to match and overcome Hayashi-sama. He chuckled and shook his head. Yeah, sounds so easy, but I have no clue what to do. Yet, if it was only that easy, Hayashi-sama is not a man to take lightly. Who do you think has been training me? I'm good, but his use of the Byakugan and gentle fist style is absolute precision and power combined. Not to mention his skills are perfection. And I have no idea what jutsus he knows. I don't know of any weaknesses in his offense nor defense. He paused as he saw that Naruto was mulling over everything he was being told. He didn't want to make him depressed, but Naruto had to know this wasn't going to be a piece of cake. Maybe I can help you train. He saw Naruto look at him and shake his head. No, Hayashi-san will expect you to be his sparring partner as he prepares. He won't accept any but the best. If he even thinks you're helping me, he may take it out on you or even Hinata. I don't want that. I'll come up with something. After all, I am the number one unpredictable knucklehead ninja. He laughed, resuming his walk to the Soul Gate where two guards snapped to. He thought it was because of Neji. He really has no idea, does he? Neji thought as the guards accorded Naruto a gesture of respect shown to hardly anyone outside those in the head family. Except maybe the Hokage. No clue at all that his name will be known for generations now. Maybe his goal of becoming Hokage isn't just talk, a fantasy, after all. Waving farewell, he heads back for the main gate, walking lost in thought. Pausing, he thinks of something and turns abruptly, making a beeline for Granny's office. Yet as he reached a corner, he realized just how late in the evening it was. Dusk was falling rapidly. Heading east, he barely made it to the gates before they were locked for the night. Quietly, he disappeared into the forest, making quicker time to his campsite. Upon reaching it, he was surprised to find Sakura, Kakashi-sensei, and Sai sitting around a campfire. About to announce his arrival, he stopped dead when he heard what they were discussing. I don't know Sakura. Tsunade made it clear that she wants Naruto to stay behind this time. Whatever is going on, she wants him in the village. Kakashi was saying, the Hokage has her reasons, Sakura. I am sure they are good ones. Sai added in, his expression serious. He had dropped the fake smile some time ago. Ever since they had caught up to Sasuke that time with Yamato Taicho. Still, it doesn't feel right going without him. Girlfriend or not, no matter what, he should be with us. He's our teammate. Sakura said stubbornly, not looking at either of them. Besides, it's not like I can admit that I am more than a little jealous of those two. And now we see the real reason for her wanting to tell him too little too late, Sakura. A shake of his head. Actually, his relationship with Hinata isn't the reason we go without him. She feels his presence is needed here more as a symbol of hope for the village. The villagers feel safer with Naruto here, and they know he is here. At least that's what I am gathering from a few conversations I have overheard. Naruto stepped into the firelight before Sai could say anything more, and he said bluntly, you have a mission and mine is to stay here. He ignored the covert and more than a little curious looks he received as he put away the scroll and vest, going behind the tent to change into his usual clothing. You have an order from the Hokage. The details are what they are. You must act according to those orders and details. He looked between the three as he sat down at the opening of his tent. I do pay attention, Kakashi-sensei, he said with a chuckle and grin at the wide-eyed stare from Kakashi. Okay, who is this and what have you done with Naruto? He reached out and tugged on an earlobe just to make sure. Not a clone, so it must be him. Just never thought to hear you say that. He joked lightly, you have grown up more than I thought if you've come to admit that. But… Sakura started but stopped as Naruto's words sank in. You need to know where we are going and why. She insisted. It was Sai that stopped her. Would him knowing make it any easier? Probably not, except to make me worry about all of you more. Naruto said with a groan. But I can guess what the mission is. You're going to check out a rumor of Sasuke's whereabouts. Falling onto his back, he couldn't see their shared glances. He knew he was right. Granny is keeping me close right now for more than just morale. He held up a finger. First, after last month, my being here is a morale thing for the villagers and the younger genin and students. A second finger rose too. My active presence in the village during construction relieves pressure on her shoulders by those others who think I'm a danger by keeping me under supervision. He lifted a third finger. 3. It's so if there is a situation that calls for a heavy hitter, I can step in. He let his hand drop. How close am I? Closer than I feel comfortable admitting. Kakashi said, wide-eyed and slack-jawed. How did he figure all this out? Though I have to ask where you got your information. Observing how you are acting mostly and knowing how some folks feel about me no matter what happened a month ago. He replied softly. And it's not that hard to figure out. A rumor on Sasuke is something I definitely want to check out. But I also have to face the fact that the needs of the village outweigh any personal desire I have to go. You're lucky to be able to do both at once with this mission. I may be a genin still, but I have to act according to a greater responsibility. The same responsibility you have as Chunin and Jounin. He sat up and looked miserable. You have no idea how much it hurts to say that. We get your point, Naruto. Sakura said in amazement that the normally dim-witted, straightforward acting Naruto was suddenly being so mature and logical. It actually made her heart clench as she realized he was right and they had go without him to check out the rumor. As it is, you guys camp here tonight and head out in the morning, Naruto said as he took a breath and rose to his feet. I'm not tired yet, so I'm going to go get some firewood. Least I can do is make sure you guys are warm through the night. He leapt into the trees and was gone. This where I say wow? Sai asked without looking away from where Naruto had gone. I don't know about you, but I am more than a little shocked. Yeah, you can say that. Kakashi agreed with a chuckle. Never thought to see a day where Naruto would be the smart one. At least not this quickly. Looks like Hinata has a greater positive influence on him than expected. Me neither, Sai agreed. Falling silent as Sakura climbed into a bedroll and said nothing to anyone. I'll never figure her out. Either let him go or go after him, at least that's what the books say. He set out his own bedroll and went to bed for the night. Kakashi waited till they were asleep before he rose and silently tracked down Naruto. Finding him sitting on a thick branch and staring out over the wall at the Hokage memorial. Jumping up to join him. I'm impressed, Naruto. You have really changed and matured in the last month. I'm proud of you, thanks Kakashi-sensei. That means a lot. Being Hinata's boyfriend has made me grow up and pay attention to things more. He said, not looking away from the memorial. You know that Sakura is having a hard time of it? He asked, staring out as well. She is genuinely happy for you too, don't get me wrong. But she has to come to terms in her own heart with the fact that until a month ago, she was the sole object of your affections. And now she doesn't have that anymore. Her confidence is a bit shaken and her self-image took a hit. That's the real reason, isn't it? Sakura needs to know she can still do the mission without me being there. He guessed and saw the nod out of the corner of his eye. Exactly, she is fast becoming a high-level medical ninja, but she has relied on you so much for combat she has to prove to herself she still has what it takes. I understand. Come back safe, guys, Naruto said before he dropped out of the tree and gathered up some firewood for their campfire. Making sure it would keep them warm for the night, he climbed into his own tent and went to sleep. When he woke up the next morning, they were gone. Hinata was still on cloud 9 after having breakfast. Her cheeks rosy and eyes sparkled as she went about her morning duties and routine. Not noticing the envious glances thrown her way by other girls or the way men curiously whispered whenever she went by. The fact that Naruto of all people had interrupted the tournament and faced down the clan leader in such a manner. Courteous yet aggressive. Controlled but adamant. It would feed the gossip mill for the week until the match took place. Preparing a tray of tea and rice for her father and Neji, she took it from the kitchen to the practice yard. Sure enough, they were going full out. She set down the tray with a very soft clink, and she knelt to watch them. Neji was attacking full out, seeking to break her father's concentration and thusly his defense. Not that it will do any good. Father has years of practice on him. Father has truly perfected his gentle fist techniques and his sight with the Byakugan is without equal. Then she noticed something, head cocking slightly. She watched intently, and her eyes widened just a tiny bit as she saw it again. She rose quietly to her feet and padded off. She had to think, and quickly. What do I do? Do I send him word? Keep it to myself? I'm forbidden from going to him, hell with that. She grabbed a cloak from her chest and secured it around her throat. Climbing out a window, she leapt to the roof and sped away on foot. Praying no one noticed her departure. Only one did, and she had no intention of telling her husband. Hinata leapt from rooftop to rooftop, making her way to the main gate as quickly as possible. Dropping down, she let her hood fall back so the guards saw who it was that was leaving. Beyond the gate, she headed off to where she thought he might be training. Minutes later, she veered towards their spot as she thought of it. Sure enough, she found him hard at it. Sparring with Yamato Taicho, he was pressing the Jounin hard. She stood in the tree and leaned slightly against the trunk while she activated her Byakugan to watch. Strictly taijutsu, a warm-up maybe? Her thoughts were analytical as she observed them fighting hand to hand, leaping towards one another or away, using not just their fists, but every extension of their bodies as weapons. She winced as Yamato landed a solid hit but wanted to cheer as Naruto got up and charged back in. He's no Rock Lee, but he's pretty good. He has good footwork and his combos are solid. Her eyes widened as they kicked it up a notch, moving even faster and now incorporating the use of ninja tools like shuriken and kunai. Increasing the danger of injury yet also demanding greater focus and precision. She thought back to what her mother had told her of their encounter, and she could see now why he had shocked them. He is thinking at least 3 moves ahead and adapting according to success or failure of the current move, another change in his method, and a good one. She hopped down out of the tree but made no move to interrupt. That could be disastrous if done at the wrong time. Waiting till they came to a stop before she headed out into the field. Good, you've taken your taijutsu to the next level, Naruto. I'm guessing it's because of your training in that frog kumite you told me about. Have to admit, it's something I wouldn't expect of someone. Yamato was saying before he turned to see Hinata coming. Oh? Time for a break, I think. He said with a smile before going to the tree shade and wait. Huh? Naruto replied before looking. His smile was bright as he recognized Hinata and he rushed to her. His hands gripped her by the waist as he lifted her high and spun slowly. Hey! It's great to see you, he set back on her feet gently. I thought you were busy today. She flushed deeply as he spun her about so easily, her hands resting on his shoulders, legs angling backwards slightly. She looked into his eyes the whole time, and when she felt solid ground under her feet, she leaned in against him. I snuck out. Father has me grounded to the compound. I had to see you, she whispered before looking down shyly. She knew he loved that shyness of hers. And her heart was soaring as she felt his arms wrap around her waist, and his breath was by her ear. I have to tell you something, she said slowly, not wanting the moment to end. Then she never did. She relished every embrace they shared and wondered if she would always crave them. He leaned back a little and reached to lift her head so their eyes met once more. And what's that? His eyes darkening and he began to lean forward. She reached up to place fingers against his lips. She had to stop him, or she'd never tell him what she saw afterwards though. He'd better be ready to make good on that kiss. I was watching Father training with Neji this morning. There's something you need to know. The rotation technique lasts a period of time unique to the person, okay? She waited till he nodded then continued. Neji's lasts around 15 seconds tops. Remember from the Chunin exam, Father's rotation is much stronger, but its duration is shorter, and it takes him longer before to recover. She held her breath as she saw him pause and think that over. So it doesn't last as long as Neji's, and he needs more time before he can do the rotation again. Now it was his turn to stop her from talking. No more, Hinata. This was more than enough. You can't tell me all the secrets of your clan. With this I have a better chance. If I face him moving in ways only a Hyuga would know, then he could legitimately claim victory from outside interference. But she went silent and nodded. Then before he could move, she pulled his head down for that kiss. She didn't let go, instead she molded herself against him fully. Sighing during the kiss as his arms re-encircled her waist and held her tightly, his lips matching her fervor. Her fingers played in his spiky hair of their own accord and she felt how his breathing skipped. Yet she wanted more, she wanted him. He backed out of the kiss with the greatest of reluctance, going against his own desires and needs to catch his breath. Not yet. After I defeat him, he said with that constant confidence. He interrupted before she could object. I promise you, Hinata, I will beat him. And then he smiled again, which only heightened the deep red flush that enveloped his face. Then I will wait for you. And I will hold you to that promise, she replied in a whisper as she took his hand and kissed the knuckles. She turned and bowed to Yamato. I am sorry to interrupt your training session with Naruto. I needed to tell him something important. Not wanting to be a distraction, she left quickly to get home before she was missed. Yamato just waved from where he was, keeping his back turned to them. His own face a bit red as he had seen the beginnings of their conversation, and quickly turned before he saw more than he wanted to. If I hear just one odd sound, I'm out of here. Watching her leave, he could only stare at her until she was out of sight. A bemused smile on his face. He was rubbing off on her, it seemed. Not only was she more confident, she was getting a bit aggressive, with moments of utter shyness thrown in to keep him off balance. He liked it. A lot. He ran a hand through his hair and turned to see Yamato waiting patiently by the tree with his back still turned towards him. He chuckled at the sight and called out, All clear, Yamato Taicho. He waited till his partner rejoined him. Okay, shall we go over jutsus? Wait, Naruto. While I don't mind in the least helping a fellow shinobi sharpen their skills, it's not like you to be quite this extreme. What's going on that I haven't heard about? Naruto flushed darkly and told him slowly about the previous day's events. Starting from Neji finding him and Hinata having a picnic. Some things you just don't share. Let me get this straight. You accepted the challenge of Hyuga Hayashi over the right to continue dating Hinata-san? The leader of the Hyuga clan? A man with 3 times your experience in real combat? Well, you never do anything in halves and I have to agree with you. It's not right to treat your own flesh and blood like a commodity. He shook his head. You have your jutsus pretty well down pat, Naruto. I think we have to come up with something different. A gentle fist master is going to be murderous up close. Even at mid-range, they can be deadly. I'm not sure what I can teach you to combat that style. It's not that I'm looking for quick and easy. I know better than that. Naruto replied as he tried to think, then told him about the time frames Hinata had come to impart to him. He saw Yamato consider that carefully. Then he remembered one thing he hadn't shown him. I do have one improvement you'll like. He smiled and held his hands out, one above the other. And he began to concentrate. Yamato's eyes widened as he realized what Naruto was doing. He actually gasped as he saw a perfectly formed and completely controlled Rasengan appear in between his hands. Incredible. I am impressed you figured it out using the clone method in a month. Are you thinking of incorporating that improvement into the Rasen Shuriken? He held up the sphere and nodded in time. For now, I can do this without a clone, which means I only need the one to apply the wind element for the Shuriken. Not bad for me though, he said ruefully, knowing he still had a long way to go. He wanted to be able to form it one-handed like Kakashi did, which would take more training and more time. Extremely good, Naruto. Remember that not everyone can do an A-rank change in chakra shape like this. You'll perfect your ability in due time. He nodded as he watched Naruto disperse the chakra. He doesn't even consider the fact it took the Yondaime 3 years to develop and perfect that, and he has been able to do the Rasengan for over a year after it took him a few months of training. Including the month to get it to a two-handed control. He keeps going, he'll develop a second element before he's 20, and he's a genin still to boot. We have got to do something about that, and soon. He had an idea, maybe the use of chakra knives like Asuma-sensei? He was a wind type too, and he was teaching me how to utilize it with a kunai right before. Maybe that's not a good thing, he said, thinking about how Asuma had died. Show me what you can do, Yamato suggested, curious now as he was wood type thanks to his ability to combine water and earth. He grew a large thick tree for Naruto to use as a target. Naruto nodded and drew a kunai from his pouch and took a moment to flow his chakra into the weapon, then adding his wind element. He focused hard, then threw it. It streaked towards the tree like a missile, piercing the trunk with little disturbance around the puncture. The kunai kept going until it had sunken over 2/3 at length. The blade wasn't visible. Walking over with Naruto to inspect the tree, he whistled in spite of himself. You haven't been practicing this lately, have you? At Naruto's head shake, he pointed at it. Your improved control and focus has taken this to an impressive level. As you get stronger, you'll pierce even a tree this thick and the knife would continue through to whatever lay beyond it. Asuma-sensei told me once, when he demonstrated his ability with his chakra knives, that if he didn't temper the power level he could pierce through a tree and destroy a boulder 6 feet behind it. Given what I've learned since then, I can believe it. Then his eyes went wide. Wait, can't this be applied to other things like the windmill shuriken or saban? Yamato thought about it. I don't see why not. Given the scarcity of the chakra metals, you should be able to apply it to regular weapons like you have the kunai. What are you thinking? Of a way to get closer to beating Hayashi-san without seriously injuring him and definitely not killing him. Oh? Yamato said, an eyebrow rising in question, though he could guess what was going on in Naruto's head. I don't know, what about the rotation technique? He asked, seeing how well the genin was thinking it through. They would have to be able to. Then his eyes fell on the tree. Naruto to pierce a sphere of rotating chakra would take a lot of power, and if they strike a vital spot, even accidentally, it would be almost certainly a death blow. And knowing how you don't want that, you'd have to hit a limb. Which is even harder as the body would be in spin equal to the rotation speed. Yeah, but the amount needed would be less if I use a smaller weapon like a saban, right? I'm not positive. But I can tell you're going to try anyways. We'll start tomorrow. It's midday and we both have other duties to attend to, he said as he prepared to go back to the village. You go ahead, I need to think, he said as he headed back to the tree and stared at the kunai stuck in it. By the time the afternoon was heading into evening, Naruto had come up with a possible plan that he would have to at least try and see if it would work. For now, though, he needed to iron out some details. For that there was someone he needed to talk to. With that in mind, he found himself standing outside the Hokage's office building. With all the construction taking place, this framework of the village was taking shape quickly. He approached the door and knocked. Until the upper levels were finished, he knew the one he needed to see would be on the ground floor, and this was the only entrance. The door opened and Shizen looked at him in surprise. Naruto, why are you here? I thought, well, I figured you'd be training till nighttime with everything you have on your plate. She smiled knowingly and watched as his face turned an interesting shade of red. You really didn't think it wouldn't get out, did you? It's too good a story not to. She stepped back and let him enter. Tsunade-sama is having her dinner. She stopped when he shook his head. Actually, I need to talk with you, he said as he moved to where a pair of couches were, sitting down with his hands on his knees. This isn't something I want to bother Granny Tsunade with. And you're her aide. And I know that you know as much as she does about medical tools and stuff. She blinked and blushed very lightly at the compliment. Thank you, Naruto. I like to think I am a good medical ninja. But what is it you want to know? She said as she sat across from him. Finding this situation extremely strange yet refreshing from the usual people she dealt with as the Hokage's assistant. Since you know about what I have agreed to, I need to know if my adding my wind element to a saban attack would be fatal, he said seriously. Her breath caught at the question and her mind worked furiously. With his element strength? She thought to herself before she answered him truthfully. Well, any attack can prove fatal if you hit any of the 6 vital points. However, the saban was first designed for medical use. Even with the changes made to it for combat purposes, it's a low-damage weapon unless you strike a series of vitals. That's why it's primarily used to strike nerve clusters, chakra points, and so forth. It really depends on your intentions, but I can say this. To use a saban in an attack, your aim and muscle control has to be absolutely perfect as your target is often the size of a needle tip. She paused and poured them both a cup of tea, giving herself time to think. But to answer your question, a saban attack can prove deadly, but to do so you have to strike very specific areas. However, if you apply wind to it well, I can't be positive. Depending on the amount of chakra you apply, it could allow the needle to penetrate further, or in a worst-case scenario, it shatters and you sever a limb by destroying the joint, or you cause an organ to explode. The possibilities are pretty much endless. The outcome of a saban attack is based on your intent, the power you apply, and your aim. much like any weapon we ninja use. He sipped the tea and gulped when she mentioned exploding limbs or organs. The visual in his mind was not pretty, definitely not what I want. He continued to listen intently to her explanation and answer, nodding as he came to really understand what the probable consequences could be. I guess it boils down to my control, but let me ask you this. Do you think my idea would work against a Hyuga rotation technique? She sat back as she realized now what this had all led to, and her mental thoughts rambled slightly. He wants to use this against Hinata-san's father, but in a way so as to not to kill or permanently maim. It's ingenious in a way, something no one would anticipate from him. She had to be truthful though. It won't work, Naruto. From the very little I have heard, rumors mind you, the technique would deflect the Senbon no matter what. The rotation technique is comparable if not equal to Gaara-sama's perfect defense. The curvature of the spinning rotation field would automatically knock the incoming Senbons aside. He nodded again as everything he had been told was congealing to what he knew and had already learned. Okay then. I know what I have to do, just have to figure out the power level I need for it to work then. But Naruto, I just told you, they won't get through, she said, watching him intently, thinking privately, has all this gone to his head? Or has he simply lost his mind? He laughed and said bluntly, I know that for certain now. Thank you, but I never said I planned on them getting through, now did I? He asked with that mischievous gleam in his eyes. She thought about it, and realized he had her outmaneuvered somehow, she just didn't know how or when it had happened. Well, is there anything else I can do? She asked, trying to figure out his game. His request brought her thoughts to a complete and sudden stop. I need to know everything on record about my father, the Yoname Hokage, and my mother. He stammered on the word, having never used it to refer to himself. May I ask why? If he learns, I have to notify Tsunade-sama immediately. He cocked his head at her after he got to his feet and stretched. Heading to the door to leave, he looked over his shoulder and smiled sadly. I think I've earned the right to know exactly who my parents were. Don't you? He exited and closed the door on a stunned Shizen. The moment she was sure he was gone, Shizen raced through the partially finished ground floor, knocking on the door to Tsunade's private quarters. Enter, Shizen. She closed the door behind, and without preamble, Naruto wants to know about his parents. Of course he does. Tsunade's voice came from behind a privacy screen. It's only natural that he would. I would want to know too if it had been kept from me all of my life. But he wants to know everything, she clarified. There was silence for a moment, then Tsunade emerged from behind the screen where she had been drying off from her bath. She looked in full-length mirror and smiled at her reflection. Back to myself at last, she murmured vainly as she preened somewhat. This we cannot allow. Not yet. Do you understand, Shizen? Make whatever excuse you have to, but he cannot learn anything about his mother's past or origins. Her name is fine, but nothing more. I cannot afford to let him go running off to that village to discover his roots. She sat down at a small table and began brushing out her long golden hair. Separating the length into half, she bound the sections into two long hanging ponytails. She stood up and held her arms down and outwards so Shizen could slip in bedrobe up her arms and over her shoulders. While Tsunade belted the robe, she answered, This doesn't sound like you, Tsunade-sama. To keep that information from Naruto, even if briefly, that's a big risk. Especially once he finds out it was withheld. I believe it's a mistake, but I'll do as you instructed, she said reluctantly. Fine. He can be mad at me all he wants, but for the now he must remain ignorant of his mother's origins. She sighed and stared out a window. Damn it. He's moving faster than I had planned. It more than likely is a mistake, but it has to be done. She forestalled Shizen's obvious response. Think about it, he's only just learned who his father was. Now he has to be wondering why everyone treated him like they have despite knowing the truth. And he is very much aware that the adults knew something he didn't. If what you told me about the Hyuga matter is accurate. You read the reports of what he said when they recovered Gaara's body from the Akatsuki. His near rage over the label of Jinchuriki and the treatment that Gaara, and he himself, was subjected to because of that. If he learns the truth about his mother too quickly, I cannot guarantee he won't turn his back on us all. Hell, I can't say he wouldn't do it when he learns of those details down the road. Be brutally honest, whether now or later, if he were to leave, would we deserve no less? Shizen had been quiet through all this, but now she gaped at the question put to her. I don't know, she admitted softly as she put herself in the shoes of the man who had not long ago sat across from her and asked for her advice. I'd be furious. I know you want to protect him, but I have to wonder if this is the right way. You chewed out the counselors for treating him like a child, yet you are doing the very same thing now. Tsunade snapped around in the chair she had just sat down on and faced her aide, temper rising dangerously. Then suddenly that fire went out and her shoulders sagged. You're right, but I don't see any other way. Everything I am trying to do now, this past month, the months and years to come, it's all to make up for the life he never had. Sarutobi shouldn't have done what he did. I'm trying to atone for it. But he's just not ready to know the truth about his mother. Who she was, where she came from. Then tell him. Don't hide it behind lies and excuses. He is a grown man just looking for answers. To lie to him like this, it's a slippery slope, Tsunade-sama. Then you have to lie again to cover up the first. Then another and another. Where would it end? With him hating you and quite possibly hating every soul in this village as a result. That's enough, Shizen, she said quietly, her expression readable now as torn between her thoughts and her heart. Shizen shook her head. No, Tsunade-sama, not quite. If nothing I said makes you see the right path, then I pray this does. Outside of Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi-sensei, Yamato Taicho, and now Hinata-san, you are the only one he adores. He calls you Granny Tsunade not to mock but to show how much he does indeed care for you. He knows you are Hokage, respects you as Hokage, but thinks of you as family. A family he himself has built over time, and with tremendous effort on his part. People who see, recognize, and accept him. If you betray that implicit trust, he would be right to leave and never return. I doubt he would ever consider himself to be a leaf shinobi ever again. This will lead him on the same path that Sasuke-kun walks. And in time, it will be him that comes to the village. He will be the one to destroy it. For he will destroy the hearts of the villagers even as he kills every shinobi. If he doesn't kill us first. She stopped, unable to finish where this discussion was going. She has only balked against Tsunade's direction twice in all the time she has been at her side. Once when it came down to the deal offered by Orochimaru, and now, her hand slapped flat on the windowsill, making it crack and split loudly. I said enough, Shizen, the Hokage exclaimed in a soft and deadly voice. You have made yourself heard. Now go and find every file and record of both Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. You have until morning. No later than by the end of my first meeting of the day. She bowed her head in acquiescence. I'll get right on it. She backed away, then turned and left, leaving her Hokage to her thoughts, smiling to herself as she closed the door. You'll make the right choice, sensei. At the window, Tsunade, the Godame Hokage, stared through the clear pane into the night. Lost in her thoughts, she absently moved and went to a bureau and pulled out a saucer and a sake jug. Moving back to the chair, she sipped sake and stared at nothing as the darkness of night overtook the skies. Damn it, Shizen, you had to plant doubts in my mind, and to be right to do so. Then again, she has always been my devil's advocate when I couldn't see the other side of the coin. To make it worse, she's right about his probable reaction. I have no real choice in this. I have to delay his finding out, but in a way so he knows I am not purposely hiding the information he wants. Just holding it back until I think he's emotionally ready for it. Damn, Jiraiya, I wish you were here. I could use your advice on how to handle this stubborn godson of yours, and I could finally tell you how I feel, you damn pervert. Why did you have to go and get yourself killed? She broke off her thoughts and realized she was crying. She laid her head atop crossed arms on the table and wept, shoulders shaking with the grief she finally allowed herself to express. Stopping by the ninja armory, he put in his request for a full satchel of senbons, which earned him a curious stare by the ninja behind the counter. He knew it was an odd request for him of all people to make. Smiling, he paid for the supplies and headed to the gates. He got there and went to exit when he was stopped by a friendly voice. He turned to see Iruka-sensei waving at him. He smiled and returned the wave, walking over. Iruka-sensei. Good to see you. Your advice was on the money, he said as his former teacher gave him an inquiring look. That's good. I'm happy for you, Naruto, Iruka said in pleasure as he walked Naruto through the gates. You have a mighty task ahead of you. Give it your best and I'm sure you'll succeed, he said, his hand resting on Naruto's shoulder. The whole village is buzzing with your challenge from the Hyuga leader. Some are saying you were wrong somehow, and this is you seeking redress. But that's not you. You've never been one for revenge. The most popular rumor is that you are fighting for love now that I can believe. He lifted an eyebrow in question as Naruto's cheeks turned red. Oh ho, I guess the latter is the right one. Good for you, Naruto, he thought to himself as he watched Naruto head off into the woods. Naruto got to his tent and smelled perfume. Not sure what to think, he peered inside his tent. He saw a note on his bedroll. He unrolled the note and sat down hard as he recognized the handwriting, and he read the message several times. Naruto, I know you said not to tell you anything more, and I will respect your wish. I will not think of failure because you never do. Nor will you give up. Your strength of purpose and determination sustains my hope. Your kiss fills my heart with joy, and I can't wait for this conflict to be resolved, as it will mean we can be together without my father's interference. I just wanted you to know I have faith in you, and just know that I love you with all my heart and soul. Hinata. He read that letter several more times, unable to get the smile off his face. He changed into his night clothes after washing up from the day. He put the letter under his pillow and he went to sleep with that same smile firmly in place. He found himself in a chamber he knew all too well, staring at a pair of huge brass cage doors, locked shut by an enormous seal. Beyond the doors a shadowed form stared back with malicious red eyes with vertical slits of black for pupils. He sighed as he lifted his chin and returned the glare, refusing to back down. Ever. What do you want, Kirby? He asked bluntly. A growl louder than thunder rolled out of the prison. Look at you, standing there so proud and full of yourself. You are nothing. Weak. What strength and power you have is because of me. Not really. Not in the grand scheme of things. My healing ability is a result of being your prison, but beyond that it's because of my efforts. My abilities. Then why are you here? In that sage mode? Do you fear me taking over you again? I'd be a fool to not be more than very careful around you, Kyubi. If not for my father's shade, you would have gotten free, he admitted with gritted teeth. You used my emotions to try and get free. The growl that came out as response threatened to echo for hours. Yandame Hokage. Shame he died doing this to me. I would love to sink my claws and teeth into him. He only succeeded because of the power of his wife's teachings, otherwise the eyes narrowed suddenly, and the creature's eye loomed closer, almost touching the brass bars that restrained it, studying Naruto intently. That's why you are here, isn't it? You want information, things only I can tell you. Those humans you trust so much won't trust you to know the entire truth. We'll see, you cunning old fox, Naruto said confidently as he looked up without flinching. I've already requested that information. The Broly laugh was mocking. You really believe they will just let you have that information? No, they will hide it away, use it as bait to keep you in line, dangle it in front of you like some carrot. Mark my words, boy, they know you well enough to know you would seek even more if they just give you what you want. No, they won't risk that. No! Granny wouldn't do that. I know it, then so do you, he said with a vehement shake of his head and gesture. You're trying to get me all worked up so you can try to get free again. I came here to say no more. Try that again and it's over for you. Ha 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 ha. You are so amusing when you try to be defiant in front of me. You have no idea whatsoever. There is nothing you can do to me, boy. Not without harming yourself. And that lovely raven-haired vixen, tasty-looking morsel. The growl was no longer mocking. It was a hungry sound that caused the water on the floor to shimmer and eddy about. Naruto's eyes narrowed and he said slowly, Try it, fox, you don't want to test me. Not like this. I will not let you near her. He shouted and brought his hands together with a clap. And he focused all his strength and will on the prison doors. What? What are you doing? The door began moving inwards, metal groaning as it slid an inch, then another, then yet another. Moving inward as a single unit. Closing in on the beast, restricting it even more. The bars thickening, closing the open distance between them even more. Stop. How are you doing this? Stop, I say. There was a note of something like panic in the Kyubi's voice, and the eyes widened in a sudden flicker of genuine fear. If you do this, you will never be able to draw on my strength. Your healing will diminish. He stopped focusing and the gates came to a rest. Making my point, Kyubi. You reside inside my mind. You have to exist in here according to my rules. I can change the size of your prison whenever I want, make it smaller or bigger. He trailed off, letting that carrot dangle. Humph. You think to use that against me? I do what you want and I get more room? I don't and you close it in on me? It began to chuckle, then laugh mockingly and with relish. It is you who should be very careful. Don't match wills with me, I can crush you in an instant. I am a force of nature older than time, boy. The waters churned violently and the gates moved out. Hardly budging at first, but it did move. The sound of screeching brass and resistance until the gates were back right where they had been before. The bars returned to their original thickness. The growl that emanated from beyond was pleased and revealing no sign of straying. You see, I easily returned the dimensions to what they were before. Your will is no match for mine. Naruto didn't let his shock show as he focused his attention on the gates once more. This time checking for damage. Satisfied, he shrugged. Now it's you who is underestimating me. Ha! He thrust out a hand and applied nature energy combined mixed in with his own chakra to the intent as his other hand came up to his face. 2 fingers upright and the others curled tight. The gates slammed inwards a full 2 feet without a sound and came to a stop. The outermost sections of vertical bars merging to become solid metal panes. Enough! The beast roared and the battle was on. Red, malevolent, destructive power thrust against the more heavily fortified gates. The gates bulged outwards, flexing as raw undiluted chakra pushed and pried and clawed at them. Bending outwards then back in as the fox fought against the power of Naruto's will and enhanced chakra. I will break free. I will devour you utterly. Then I will destroy this village you hold so dear. But first I will feast on that girl. The gates kept buckling and flexing violently, then they stilled, having not moved one bit. The growl was so dark it was easy to feel the sheer menace and murderous intent behind it. You won't leave it here sooner or later. You'll need more power. You'll come running to me. You always have and you will do so again, and when you do you'll pay a hefty price. The voice was low and threatening, yet there was more a sound of grudging respect. Possibly sincere, more than likely false. Maybe Kyubi, but it will be on my terms. He answered slowly and softly as he locked the gates in their new position. He wasn't sure how he knew they wouldn't budge after he left unless he moved them, but he did, and he trusted that. Turning his back to the 9-tailed fox, he left the chamber. He didn't react when his departure was met by loud, furious roars. He bolted up to a sitting position, gasping. The smell of burnt fabric was strong in his nose and he looked around him, almost frantically. The tent was gone and there was a fine layer of soot all over him. The contents of his tent was untouched, as though the tent flash burned to nothing in an instant. He got dressed a bit more warmly, and he looked back to his bedroll. Or what used to be his bedroll and blanket. They too were ash and his outline was clearly visible. As was the neck pillow. He brushed away the soot flakes and found the letter untouched except for a singed corner. He sighed in relief as he looked at Hinata's elegant handwriting, and he put the letter into his backpack. A moment later, he realized it was nearing the time for dawn and that he had faced down the Kyuubi. And this time he had won. He now understood something about himself in the process that he had been told about but never really got. He sucked at genjutsu because he lacked the chakra control and the requisite will to overcome another's mental processes. He couldn't force someone to see what he wanted. Yet with the Kyuubi, he had changed the environment because it was in his own mind. And the old fox had been scared of him. He wanted to laugh and triumph, but he knew better. Fox was right about one thing. Sooner or later he would need the extra oomph only it could provide. He would have to pay a price for reminding the fox of its space limitations. That fox would fight 3 times harder next time, without fail, to loosen its cage or break free. He wouldn't let himself forget the way Kyuubi had almost purred about killing Hinata. Gathering up his things, he also thought about what Kyuubi had said before they matched wills. It knew things about his mother, that Granny and the others would use the information they had to control him, and who knows what else. He shied away from that quickly, not wanting to believe she would, but deep down in a dark place in his heart where he kept his anger and sorrow trapped, he had his doubts. He was breaking free of any restraints they had on him one by one. As a Jinchuriki, those counselors in particular wouldn't want that. Granny? She placed her faith in him and his strength, but this may well be a whole new matter. He would find out soon enough. With everything set and himself fully dressed, he set out for the village slowly. He would have to replace the gear and supplies after he took a bath. The gates should be open by the time he arrived. After that, he would have to head out to the field where he had trained with Kakashi-sensei and Yamato Taicho, the same place where he and Hinata had shared first a picnic, then they had shared vows of love. 6 days later, no crowd stood talking in the forest as they went on their way to watch the duel. Only a very select few of the non-Hyuga shinobi knew the exact location, and those few had been asked to attend by the genin himself. They had gathered to a single position, taking up places by the single tree near the waterfall, each one invited for different reasons. Shikamaru was there so he could evaluate Naruto's performance, and tell him where he needed to improve or what went wrong. Beside him stood Temari of the Suna village. Naruto had seen her walking alongside Shikamaru and had invited her as a gesture of respect. Plus, her viewpoint was invaluable as someone who didn't know him very well and a non-leaf shinobi to boot. Team Kakashi for obvious reasons as well as Yamato Taicho. All of them were quiet and respectful as the Hyuga clan arrived. Over 3 dozen members peeling off to secure the area and make sure no outside party interfered for either side. A few taking up a position under the tree to set up 3 padded stools as well as to watch those in the tree. Trust was not going to be taken for granted. Nor was it even remotely implied. They took no insult though they each and all knew it was Hyuga Hayashi's doing. Sakura sat on a thick branch by the trunk looking more like herself as she tried to softly chat with Temari, who wasn't really sure if she should there. Shikamaru had taken an even higher position in the tree, leaning against the trunk and staring at the clouds, waiting with that normally blank expression of his, looking as if the whole affair wasn't worth the effort he was putting into it. Sai had moved to a ground position, his desire to catch even a moment of the conflict on canvas, seemingly oblivious to the guards that watched his every move. Kakashi sat on the branch, pretending to read his novel, yet waiting with a building anticipation in his stomachy. I wonder how you will pull this off, Naruto. He thought to himself as his clear blue eye scanned the area around him. Interesting, he thought to himself. Temari is confused slightly, Sai is as aloof as ever, and Shikamaru he's more nervous than he shows. His fingers are twitching against the bark. In fact, we all are minute signs, but they are there. The head family parted from the rest of the clan presence, who then moved to sit or take up a spot in the tree line. Their Byakugan skill would allow them to see the duel clearly even from that distance. The women of the family each bowed to their husband/father and took a stool. All dressed up to some extent. Hayashi's wife sat in the center, Hanabi on her left, and Hinata's visibly worried form took the right-hand stool. Only Hinata was dressed in a full flowing kimono of purple over lavender embroidered with the Hyuga symbol and an obi of dark crimson. Her hair left loose to hang down her neck. She was fidgeting with her fingertips and her eyes were wide and frightened. Neji had come as was expected. He stood behind Hinata, a calming hand on her shoulder. His duty was obviously to protect Hinata and to keep her from going out onto the battlefield. His dress was his usual garb, yet of a finer material. Hayashi walked towards the tree and asked in a loud voice, "Where is he? The time has arrived. If he doesn't show up soon, I'll call this a forfeit on his part." His voice trailing off, his eyes and body slowly turning right. "2 of you this time? That boy has no sense of decorum." From the pond being fed by the wide waterfall, a gigantic red toad with burgundy marking emerged slowly and quietly, his vest a rich navy color. A short satoichi hilt visible along its right hip. It hopped out and landed with a crashing thud. Atop his head sat a green toad of great age and thick bushy gray eyebrows. It was the smaller toad that answered. "Naruto-chan is my pupil. I have every right to observe this duel. Neither Bunta-chan nor I will interfere." He quirked an eyebrow at Hayashi as if daring him to say otherwise. Hayashi said nothing then, Recognizing the Elder Sage Toad and the toad known widely as the toad that had been with Jiraiya for many years and the same toad that the Yondaime Hokage had stood atop of that fateful day over 16 years ago. Gamabunta, the boss toad himself, was there to observe. Hayashi drew a katana from his belt, still sheathed, and activated his Byakugan. Well then, where is this student of yours? A voice came from high above, earning gasps of surprise from everyone present. Yo! Apparently no one had checked that high. Standing atop the wooden beam spanning the waterfall was a solitary figure. Looking down on them all with yellow eyes and wearing a black and orange jumpsuit pants but without the zippered top, sunlight glinting off the leaf headband. He leapt off and easily landed on the ground and walked forward to face his opponent. His arms were bound from wrists to elbows. He bowed formally to Hyuga Hayashi and gave an answer at last to his question. I've been here for 5 days. I saw no reason after all that time to rush in. As you would say, dignity must be preserved. He stepped back and waved to his friends in the tree. Kakashi had blinked more than once as they exchanged a formal greeting of sorts. His gaze narrowed when Naruto waved. His keen eye caught what others might miss. He's got a sheath of some kind on each inside forearm like what others would use to carry a large number of shuriken without being burdened. Is that your plan, Naruto? Overwhelm him with weapon numbers? No, the kanji inside is different, not shurikens, and I can't tell what it is. He looked up and caught Shikamaru's gaze, tapping his wrist quickly. He nodded in return when the Chunin indicated he had seen. He turned his attention back as Naruto was bowing to each of the ladies, his smile brighter for Hinata. With the pleasantries over, Hayashi's wife rang out. It commanded attention as she stood up and spoke clearly so all could hear. This is a personal duel between Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hayashi for the right become companion to my daughter, Hyuga Hinata. Uzumaki is the challenged and Hyuga the challenger. Let none interfere in this match nor render aid to either side until it ends. She sat down and folded her arms into the opposite sleeves of her gown. Hanabi stood up, wearing her formal gown. As this is contest of power, skill, and strength, I ask that both fight with honor and give mercy when asked. Let none die in this matter. She sat down and mimicked her mother. Hinata stood as the last and spoke slowly in a terrified voice, which made her stammer worse. Should Uzumaki stand victorious, then none may question his right to be at my side from this point nor interfere later on. If Hyuga is the victor, then never again shall Uzumaki and I cross paths, nor communicate in any way beyond what is demanded of us as shinobi on a mission together. By your honor you have agreed to these terms. She paused to take a breath, looking at them both but seeing only Naruto. Another breath and her voice was stronger even as her hands fisted tight. Begin! Naruto sprang back several feet, and as soon as his sandals touched the ground he flew forward with kunai in hand. Which was a good thing as the katana flashed in the air. Metal clanged with metal as he fought, bouncing back then charging in again over and over from every possible angle. Even from above, he had no thought to those watching, only for his adversary. Bit by bit the match began to change until distance was created between them. Naruto's hand flashed and 3 Senbon flew arrows straight towards Hayashi's side. Hayashi saw them easily with his Byakugan, sword flashing in 3 distinctive strokes to knock them aside contemptuously. Senbon? Really, Naruto, at least make this challenging for me, he said acidly before he found himself being attacked by 4 shadow clones. His mind whirled at the suddenness. When did he? I didn't see a sign woven. Has he gotten that fast that I didn't see it? Impossible. He dodged or deflected the clones easily, tossed aside the katana, and shifted into a gentle fist stance. His gaze narrowing as he used techniques he had refined to an art form over decades of combat and practice. His smile was mocking as they disappeared after a single strike. He visualized the range field and went on the attack. Closing the distance, and he began with a cry, Hack Rokujurinshu. 2 palms. His smile disappeared as Naruto poofed the moment his palms made contact. What? His began searching intently and found Naruto with row upon row of clones on each side. His eyes widened as he realized that he couldn't separate the clones from the original. Hinata's hands were clenched tight as she watched fight continue, gasping as clone after clone appeared. There were so many the field was quickly filling up. Then without preamble they attacked en masse. Some along the ground, others from above after leaping high off the shoulders of one in front of them. Then she noticed that those above were spinning. She blinked and suddenly they were hurling huge numbers of senbons down at her father. The grounded ones using kunai while a small number charged in. She groaned when her father used the Hakushukaten, deflecting the attacks from every direction. The spin sent every clone flying and they disappeared. Those above landing outside the field of the rotation technique and replaced by others that sent even more in a shower of senbons. Yet the rotation sent them flying everywhere until her father finally finished and stood there mockingly laughing as the clones began to circle him warily. High above, Shikamaru looked right and saw that Kakashi had joined him and had lifted his headband to reveal the Sharingan eye he possessed. What do you think he's doing? Using senbons of all things? What a waste. Even as he said it, he knew there had to be more to it. He looked below and saw that Sai's brush was working frantically to capture the deluge. Sakura was sitting there with mouth gaping over the display, and Temari was leaned forward almost to the point of falling. What is she seeing that I'm not? He wondered silently as he put his focus back on the battle. Kakashi didn't nod. He was too intent on the action as the hailstorm stopped and the in-close combat resumed. His eyes tracking the movements even as the information from the Sharingan was being translated to his mind. This is crazy, but I know it's not over. Naruto doesn't waste like this. It's a misdirection, but I can't figure it out, not yet. What are you up to? Naruto nodded to himself, that confident grin never wavering once. Okay, I've got your timing now, he thought to himself as he began the second stage of his plan. Not waiting for the technique to completely finish before he charged in and vaulted onto the back of a clone and launched high into the air. He had practiced this move so much it was instinctual. Time to land a few shots of his own. Hayashi gasped as his rotation came to a halt, and suddenly 4 clones were below him, each landing a solid kick to his midsection, sending him higher and higher still with a cry of "You! Zu! Ma! Ki!" Head going back at the last kick, he barely registered a figure coming towards him midair, mirroring his flight before spinning to connect a heel to his gut with a cry of his own, "Naruto Barrage!" A blow that reversed his direction completely, and extremely painfully. His impact with the ground made him cough blood violently and sent up a cloud of smoke. The moment his toes sensed contact, he had turned and drove straight in with an unending flurry of punches, kicks, and taijutsu attacks. He knew few, if any, would connect, but it was serving a purpose. Driving the dodging and deflecting Hyuga Hayashi back. Making the man backstep foot by foot until he was where he needed him. The moment things were working, he prepared to leap back and cut loose with the next stage. Hayashi had no clue what was going on, but no longer was he mocking the genin. His face had changed into an expression of fierce concentration. Marveling silently at the blue-eyed teen's determination and showing of skill. Where is this energy coming from? He's moving faster by the second. I don't have time to counterattack. I can only deflect and dodge. What the? Rocking back on his heels, he couldn't understand why Naruto had backed off, but he knew an opening when he saw it. He used an unorthodox move. Instead of 2 fingers for the strike, he formed a claw and drove it in just as Naruto's legs had bent to send himself backwards. He struck the core of the chakra network violently, and with enough force that he saw the chakra network itself spasm as if in agony. A mere moment later, maybe a heartbeat, he had stumbled back into the incoming attack, which sent him into another rotation on sheer instinct. Even though he hadn't recovered enough to utilize it fully, Naruto landed shakily, eyes wide as he felt the chakra network go completely numb. He felt the chakra stop flowing from his center. All he had was what remained in his extremities. A turbulent power of combined chakra and nature energy. He knew the damage was severe, and he collapsed to his knees. He coughed and spit blood. His mind was slow to think. The pain was growing worse, and as a result he was sluggish as he fell and caught himself with his hands. It's over, I've lost everything. No, there's still enough chakra and nature energy to do it. To trigger the trap. I have to get up. Come on, get up. Get up. His limbs were heavy, and then he heard it, the growling voice inside him. Use my power, and this he's tried to destroy you. End him now before it's too late. No, if I win, it'll be by my own power, Fox. Not yours. I've relied on you too many times. Don't be a fool. If you do this thing, you'll exhaust your life energy as well as your power. You'll die. We both will die. That's the chance I have to take. So leave me alone. I have to focus. And oh. He rose up, eyes glazing, and he snarled, focusing his chakra to move around the empty areas to his hands. He kept going until his hands began to glow with a pale blue flame. Ever so slowly, his arms extended and they rose to his eye level. He coughed more blood but didn't take his eyes off the now spinning Hyuga. His hands blurred through a series of hand signs before they stopped in the form of a diamond shape. He gathered the final remnants of his chakra and activated the trap. His voice carried only barely but enough to form the words, Sage Art, Counter Rotation. Hinata screamed when the blow connected and she saw what her father had done. She knew that rather than lose, her own father had damaged Naruto's chakra core where the energies were mixed and chakra was the result. She rose from her stool only to be held back by Neji and 2 more guards. She struggled against them, screaming Naruto's name in agony. Crying as her heart split. She couldn't get to him even as he got to his feet by what looked like sheer will, and he took a stance with arms outstretched. She saw him exhaust his power, and then his entire network went dark. Except for the blue flames that engulfed his connected hands. Then she remembered something Iruka-sensei had once told his class when they were at the academy. The flame will burn brightest at the moments just before it is extinguished. Then suddenly the world seemed to explode around her father, and she blacked out when the flames covering her beloved's hands went out. There was a full-on collective gasp of sheer amazement from the Hyugas present. Every Saban suddenly lit up as the chakra stored in them came to life like hundreds and hundreds of mini flares. Those flares began to touch and grow until a ragged, uneven circle was formed, at which point the flow began to rotate, moving faster and faster, so powerfully dust rose to form a vortex engulfing the spinning Hyuga and obscuring him from normal sight. However, to their senses it was clearly visible this trap was working. Hayashi's spin was slowing rapidly even as he was being lifted off the ground. They could see his shock as he was suddenly wrenched into an opposing gut-sinking spin that he had no control over. Naruto's hands flashed outwards, then back flat-palmed with a thunderous clap that used the last dregs of his chakra. And he detonated the trap's final movement. His smile was devious as the wind chakra went from spinning to attacking, pulling senbons from the ground. They flew in with absolute precision and sank into their target. I got him. His eyes were unfocused, his steps heavy as he moved forward. It seemed to take an eternity to reach Hayashi, who had been dropped to the ground like a discarded toy. He was breathing too heavily, blood bubbling from the corner of his mouth as he stared down at the unconscious but very alive Hyuga. 20 senbon had embedded themselves in his body, each one striking a nerve cluster that would render the man immobile without killing him. He fell to his knees, sitting back on his heels as he began to lose consciousness himself. Medical Ninja exploded onto the scene, focusing on the two combatants, their chakra turning green as they began applying medical jutsus to save lives. Sakura had leapt out of the tree, running full tilt to Naruto's side. She began and she gasped as she sensed the devastation wrought by that single blow. What did he do? The core is practically shattered at 5 major junctions. He was trying to destroy the network as a whole. There's no wait, there's the heartbeat. Weak, thready, but there. If I can keep him alive long enough to get him to the hospital, if he can hold on. Her head snapped up as another med joined in, and then a third. Followed by 4 more, who carried a stretcher. All of them staring intently at Naruto's body. His eyes were open and he whispered to Sakura. She jerked back and then nodded, unaware of the tears that flowed down her cheeks. She stepped back and turned to face the Hyuga women who were trying to wake up a passed-out Hinata. She wanted to rip them apart over this foolishness as she stalked forward. She didn't think but lashed out, knocking Kakashi aside like a rag doll. Shikamaru and Temari were prepared to block her but got out of the way as Hinata's mother walked forward. She seemed afraid which she should be given that Sakura could kill her with one blow. Yet she didn't lift a fist. She stared coldly at her and said in a voice of iron, "Naruto is semi-conscious. He asked me to tell you that he has no regrets except that he couldn't have ended it sooner." She wiped the tears away and then she cut loose with her words. "I hope you are satisfied. He won your stupid duel. For her. Now get out of my way." She pushed anyone between her and Hinata, using a vial to wake up Hinata, whispering to her and helping her to her feet. Without another word, she rushed off to join those carting Naruto away on a stretcher. She didn't even glance at the medics hovering around Hayashi as they gingerly removed the senbons and worked to revive him. Her thoughts were vicious. I hope the bastard dies for what he's done. He has no right to live. And if the damage is permanent, then I promise you he won't be alive for long. Kakashi sat up, feeling like a building had dropped on him again. He looked and saw Naruto carried away on a stretcher. 3 medics, including Sakura, using their jutsus to keep him stable. He turned to look the other way and saw Hinata wobbling on her feet as she moved to follow. He stood and stopped her. He saw the tears flowing down her cheeks and he feared the worst. Hinata's terrified words didn't make it any less. Father shattered the chakra core of Naruto's network. I don't know if the damage is permanent. If it is, he'll never be able to use ninjutsu again. If he survives, that is. Sakura-chan told me and passed on Naruto's words to me. Now I'm going to the hospital to be with him as long as it takes. She didn't look at him as she resumed walking. But he noticed her stride was stronger, and she suddenly ripped the kimono off to reveal her regular wear underneath it. Then she was gone, running to catch up with the gurney and medics. He strode forward to where Sai was tearing up the canvas and Hinata's mother stood frozen. His voice carried and out of the corner of his eye he saw the toads disappear back into the pond. Elder Toad Sage will be at the hospital in no time. After he tells the Hokage what happened. I don't know what that jutsu was. I don't want to know, and I am pretty sure no one else here does either. If he survives intact, he drawled, noting how her complexion paled even further, I'll make sure he knows to never use it again. After this, I'm not sure if we deserve that kindness my husband may have just killed the greatest hope our village has because of his pride. Kakashi nodded and added grimly, you may want to make sure he has a guard at all times. When she looked at him, he clarified. If Naruto can no longer be a shinobi, Sakura will try to kill your husband in revenge. If she doesn't, I will. His gaze was serious, as were his final words before getting Shikamaru, Temari, and Sai moving. Just a friendly warning that may become not so friendly. Understood, Kakashi-san. I will take appropriate measures and pray he survives and keeps his abilities. The hospital was in full swing when the gurney carrying Naruto crashed through the emergency entrance. Cries of shock were easily heard, but confusion disappeared as Sakura took charge, issuing orders in a tone that allowed for no dissent. You! Go get Tsunade-sama. Tell her it's Naruto. Code Yellow. She pointed to a nurse and said, get operating room 3 prepped for emergency jutsu procedures. Stat! I need at least 10 medics ready to go when we get there. Move, move, move! She said as they carefully transferred Naruto's unconscious form from the gurney to a medical table. The 4 medics collapsed in exhaustion, having run the entire distance while keeping their charge unjostled. You 4, get some rest, you'll be needed soon enough. I want him prepped now. Type 5-4 solution with a chakra mix 9. She turned to him as others began cutting his clothes off and draped a cover over his privates. Now move it, or 3 is either ready or close to it. She led the gurney herself, clearing a path by the sheer anger in her expression. An expression that hid the terror in her mind and heart. We have to save him. They got to the operating room and entered quickly, sliding the table into position. She looked around and nodded as she saw 5 medics in place and 5 more standing behind them ready to go. The moment the table halted and Sakura gave the word, they began, each acting as one to activate the healing circle inscribed on the floor. Outside, the no admittance light turned red. Hinata wasn't far behind. One nurse merely pointed when she saw the tear-streaked face. Hinata dashed down the hall, stopped only by the red light above the doors. Arms cradling her midsection, she paced, not stopping when Kiba, Shino, and Kurenai arrived. They had seen her running all out through the village, her arrow's straight path telling them more than enough. Shikamaru and Temari weren't far behind them either. Last was Kakashi. He walked over to Hinata and simply hugged her, whispering to her ear as she crumpled and cried like she had lost her very soul. She couldn't hear Shikamaru explaining what happened, her sobs so loud in her ears. Kakashi glanced over and saw the outrage in his own heart mirrored in the faces of those gathered. Even Kurenai's had gone stone cold. The Hyuga clan leader just made a series of new enemies this day. Let's hope this doesn't lead to a ninja war of our very own. His thoughts came to a halt as more shinobi arrived. Sai, Lee, Tenten, Neji, Gai, Ino, Choji, Konohamaru, Moegi, Udan. He noted that the darkest face was Hyuga Neji's as they took up positions at various points to wait till they heard something. He let Neji take over, trying to calm down Hinata, and he nodded to Gai and Kurenai, leading them to a nearby garden to speak privately. He told Gai of the duel and saw his face turn red in anger. Then he said the words that should never be spoken aloud. If this goes badly, we have to act fast. The others cannot be involved. Agreed? He saw their nods, more not needing to be said until it became absolutely necessary. But they knew Kakashi well enough to guess he was going to add a new name to his bingo book if Naruto died, or he survived but unable to return to the life he loved almost as much as life itself. Shikamaru could easily guess what the Jounin were discussing, but he had to talk privately with Temari. He could feel her shaking with rage from across the hall. He had to calm her down and figure out if this could cause any issues with Gaara. It would be the last thing they needed if the Kazekage took a personal affront to the events of today. He stood up and gestured for her to come with him. Never follow. Last time he did that, she nearly killed him for it. Better and more honest to treat her with the respect of the Jounin she was. When they were alone, he put it on the table. How will he react? She didn't even blink as her hand reached up to tug on her hair. A nervous habit she never showed unless it was really bad. Gaara? He will bury the Hyuga himself. He changed for the better because of Naruto. Driven to be acknowledged by becoming Kazekage. He regards Naruto as his first real friend in his life. How would you take it? She asked sarcastically, but her eyes were searching. Every person in that hall wants blood. Including you and me. Don't think I can't see it. Be glad I can at least think rationally. You're trembling. Her hand touched his cheek lightly. Damn it, Shika. Get yourself under control. They all look to you as their friend and as a leader to show them the way. If you are clouded by rage, think of how they will react in response. Her eyes widened in shock. He pulled her into a tight embrace, and she heard his whispers. She forced herself to chuckle. Later it would be interesting to see if you have that much of a dark side. For now you have to get those Chunin under control. She kissed his nose teasingly. Go. She watched him go, and once he turned the corner, she sank to the floor and began shaking herself, eyes wide as she stared at the floor, arms wrapping around herself. I can't believe he'd suggest outright murder. I've never seen him like this. He may be a lazy, complaining oaf, but he got his revenge for Asuma's death, and it was cold, calculated. Perfect. This time he is emotional, raw, angrier than I imagined he could be. Shikamaru headed back for the operating room but stopped cold as he saw Tsunade and Shizen were already there. Coming out of a prep room, covered in scrubs. He heard her telling Hinata they would do everything they could. Empty words. To tell her that means she knows already what the damage is and it's bad. Yet it's supposed to be comforting. What a drag. All we can do is wait. Wait till we hear a verdict, and then the real trouble begins. How many? How many of them will act without thought? If it's bad, most will band together. If it's very bad? I see them grouping totally as a large unit. I think the Jounin will lead the charge to boot, or beat us to the punch to save us from ourselves. Hours would pass after Tsunade and Shizen entered the operating room. Medics entered and left at regular intervals, but none of them would say a single thing, which only heightened the anxiety. It was late at night. Those who had arrived from the beginning, sleeping as they could wherever they had been when they first arrived, none of them saw the light finally turn green. None but Kakashi was keeping a vigil over the slumbering ninja when Tsunade exited the room, carrying a very pale and obviously exhausted Sakura in her arms. He watched as she found a spot on a bench and laid her there. He moved to follow her at the unspoken command. He glanced back and saw the light was now dim. The operation was over. He waited until they were outside and alone before he faced her, his eyebrow rising in silent question. his gloved hands tightening in expectation of seriously bad news and the action that would follow after. Tsunade read the signs and sighed, untying her surgical mask and letting fall forward. Naruto's luck is holding, he's alive and stable, she said, seeing how instead of relaxing he tensed even more. I thought you'd be happy, Kakashi? I am happy he'll live, Tsunade-sama, but will he? I don't want to say for certain. The damage was extensive. Not just to his internal organs but to the cauldron as well. 5 major junctions were shredded. I've never seen a single blow cause such damage. Not even the Rasen Shuriken wreaked this kind of havoc. It was too targeted, if you know what I mean, she said as she took a seat on a bench. I used up over 40 medics today. They rotated of their own accord. Not once did they balk or complain. I've never seen such an act of absolute determination in an operating room. Never once did they slow down. No one suggested quitting either. I have to say I was amazed. Naruto has become so much more than a simple genin. He's not just a symbol either, it's like he's become the heart of the village as much as you are the head. They couldn't give up because they know he'd never give up on them. I guess you're right. I just can't say if our efforts are enough. No, I can say it bluntly, our efforts alone didn't save him. Oh, I am guessing, but I think the Kyuubi was helping us. There were times when the healing jutsus were redirected, shoved around to more critical needs. If that is the case, then I can honestly say more than once that the fox saved his life. By the time I was able to realize it, more than a few critical network injuries had been repaired. Slowly, mind you, but it showed care and an attention to detail on a cellular level. None of us could have done that. What you're saying is the nine-tailed fox helped him by carefully repairing the cauldron. That's what I'm saying and more. If I'm right, it means the fox has come to respect Naruto on some level and didn't want him to die. It would have taken us a lot longer, and I can't say we would have found and managed to repair every bit of damage. But from the looks of it, he'll recover fully. That's not a verdict, Kakashi, just a guess on what I saw before he was transferred to a private room. Number 4. I have a full ANBU detail guarding the door and hallway as we speak. Only you and Hinata will be allowed entry for now. He completely exhausted his chakra and he should wake up in a week's time, during which I'll be checking on him at least twice a day, and if he does wake up, well, the medics have orders to sedate him and keep him that way. She chuckled despite herself. I will not allow him to risk his recovery. I don't care how fast or slow it is. He cannot leave that bed until I release him from it. Knowing Naruto, he'll be awake and complaining in 3 days, he said with a crinkled eye. I'll take Hinata to his room and then let everyone else know the news, and tell them to stand down on their plans, Kakashi. She sighed grimly at his suddenly innocent look. Drop the act? You and everyone in that hall were planning Haishi's murder. It was written plainly in their eyes. And yours. I'm not Hokage for nothing, you know. Tell Shikamaru I want a full written report of the events from him, as well as one from you, she said with a piercing glare. I know you watched with that eye of yours. If what the Elder Sage told me is right, the ANBU leaders will be frothing at the mouth to talk to Naruto. They have been wanting to find a counter to the Hyuga technique for ages just in case. Sorry. I was watching, but I made an oath to never divulge how that jutsu, and it is a full and complete jutsu, works. Nor will I use it. Since he may well make a full recovery, I will make sure Naruto makes the same vow. Good enough. The ANBU Corps will just have to develop their own methods without Naruto's or your support. She nodded. Go, get things settled here and wherever you have to. He nodded and strode back to the hallway. Even out there, she could hear the cries of relief and happiness, which made her want to cry herself. It had been so close. Just a little longer, or if Sakura hadn't been able to stabilize him en route too close. He said, eyes drifting open slowly. Everything a series of blurs layered on top of blurs. His head felt like a log stuck on a twig. Blinking a few times to clear his vision, he felt a pair of cool hands on his cheeks, and he could see a pair of worried silver eyes staring at him intently. His field of vision widened and he recognized Hinata's joyous expression as she smiled tearfully at him. Heaven? He asked, or tried to. It sounded more like a croak than actual wording. He saw and heard her chuckle softly. No, not heaven, Naruto. Though I had begun to worry yet again, Hinata replied. You've been unconscious for a while now, she said as she wiped at her eyes. I know they said you'll be fine, but she stopped as his bandaged hand came up and he gently pulled her down for a kiss. His hand turned and she felt his knuckles caressing her cheek. Almost instantly she felt heat spread across her face and throughout her being. He ended the kiss and smiled at her. I guess I needed the extra rest. How long have I been out? He asked as he reached for a glass of water. His throat was so dry. She helped him sip the water through a straw and was about to answer when the door opened. Hinata turned to look levelly at the Hokage as she shut the door behind her and walked to look over Naruto's chart. She set it aside and moved to the opposite side of the bed and checked his eyes and temperature. Through it all, Hinata didn't budge from his side. Her expression was protective. Well, I see you're awake and already trying to complain? Tsunade teased, though her glance at Hinata was calculating. Hinata, you can see he is healthy and apparently fit. Why don't you go home and get some rest? I allowed you to stay here the whole time as I promised. Just until he woke up on his own. Excuse me? Naruto interjected, struggling up to a quasi-sitting position, bracing on his elbows and his eyes crossed as the room spun for a second. You stayed here with me what whole time? How long have I been asleep? Tsunade looked at him but returned her stare to Hinata. You've been asleep as you put it for over a week, Naruto. 10 days to be exact. Hinata hasn't left this room even for meals. Orderlies have brought her meals while she sat beside your bed and waited. Holding your hand or using a cool rag on your forehead. She wouldn't let the nurses touch you except for more delicate matters. She smiled slightly at the flush on Hinata's face. I would ask again if you are looking to learn to be a medical ninja like Sakura and Ino have? She returned the stare, chin lifting despite the blush on her cheeks as Tsunade related events. Never looking away as she answered, thank you, Hokage-sama. But I must refuse again. My abilities lie in tracking and combat, not medicine. Though I am flattered you would ask me a second time. Take 10 days? His eyes widened. He eased back down and raised his arm, covering his eyes to let that sink in. How badly was I injured? I know that Hayashi-san, he did something to me, just I'm not sure. My father, Hinata interrupted with a tone of anger that equaled the flash in her eyes, nearly destroyed the core of your chakra network. Sakura-chan kept you stable till they got you here and could operate. I've never seen so many resources devoted to the healing of one individual. Her eyes were sad as she reached over and ran her fingers through his hair, as if making sure he was really there and awake. As it is, they patched you up and repaired the damage done to you, she said reassuringly, which is something I need to talk with you about Naruto alone, she said pointedly. With all respect, Hokage-sama, not a chance, Hinata said in a surprising show of stubbornness. I will leave in a bit, but for now I won't leave him, she added as she slid onto the bed even close to Naruto. It's okay, Granny, I want Hinata here. He scooted slowly back up to a full sitting position, with Hinata's help and her putting a couple pillows in place as support. Hit me with the bad news, she shook her head. His stubbornness is rubbing off. Which may serve you well in the future. She eased away from the bed and took a chair to sit facing them. You flatlined 3 times during the operations. We didn't bring you back, IT did. Every time. IT healed your core at the cellular level. IT wouldn't let us near it to even try. I want to know what is going on between you and the 9 tails. His eyes widened. What? His hand ran lightly over his bandaged midsection. The QB did? He felt a smile forming despite himself. Well, that's a good sign, I hope. Naruto. Tsunade intoned, her hands reaching out as if she wanted nothing more than to shake the information out of him. A vein was beginning to throb in her temple and her eyes were going hard. He chuckled and explained about the dream conversation and face down he had with the QB before the match, as well as his refusal to use the beast's power during the combat. He ended this by saying, he admired my spunk in the very beginning. Maybe now he has new reasons to do what he did. Maybe he was afraid of dying along with me? Tsunade shook her head before saying, not likely. Naruto-tailed beasts are forces of nature. The most that can happen if the host dies is the beast dissolves out into the world. In time the beast reconstitutes itself and rampages anew. But it can take decades. If he wanted to be free, all he had to do was to let you die. It would have been the easiest solution. But it didn't. It has taken the time to repair you to the extent that we cannot even tell where the damage was. And this may well explain why you have been out for so long. You have cut down on how much of the QB's power is seeped into your body, which means your healing speed, while still faster than anyone normally, will be slowed down. And you won't have as much of it melding in with your own chakra anymore, unless you lessen the restrictions. I can't do that. I work too hard to get what regard I have from him. Even it is somewhat forced. I won't ease off over this. He has to earn the privileges. I give in now, he'll expect it every time. Not going to happen, Naruto said with determination, knowing the fox was no doubt listening in intently. Anyways, when can I get out of here? He asked, changing the subject. I feel weaker than a kid and I need to get my strength back. What Aik knows, she doesn't know that the QB will die with me thanks to the Shiki Fujin dad put on him. Interesting. Hinata listened intently at their exchange, knowing that this would be something she would have to deal with for as long as they were together. Which, if she had any say, would be a very long time. Naruto, you only woke up today for the first time. You'll need to take it easy, she said quietly, a concerned tone in her voice even as she looked to him, appealing silently. Tsunade, she stared at him as he blithely put the fox out of his mind and said firmly, arms crossing under her expansive bosom. Oh, it will be at least a week, Naruto. I mean it, she said sternly as he began to balk. Until we know to what degree your healing speeds have changed. Physically you're fit as ever, but training will put a different type of strain on your body. If, and I say if, I allow you exercise, it will be under supervision only. Light training to regain muscle tone. And no attempting to gather nature energy, not until we know for certain that she trailed slowly and finished the sentence she dreaded most, that you can even form chakra at all. And to what extent? His mouth snapped shut at her insistence, but it fell open again at her last words. You're worried that I may not be able to form chakra at all? He looked down at his lap, eyes closing as he felt Hinata soothing his hair. Okay, Granny, I'll behave. This is too important for me to waste time having tantrums or whining. I'm not a kid anymore, I'll exercise according to the regimen you set out. Tsunade and Hinata both were in shock at this sudden and completely unexpected show of compliance. Hinata used her Byakugan even as Tsunade prepared to punch the imposter. Hinata's hand flew out and deflected her fist. It's him, I can see the raw places in his network where the repairs are finished but the scar tissue hasn't hardened or solidified over them. No way a clone could be created with duplicate wounds and healing at this level. Alright, Tsunade said, though she eyed him warily. No going out or all out in your exercises, Naruto. You do not want me to put Sakura on your case. She waved a finger at him, and was shocked anew when he said, actually we need to talk with her anyways. Would you tell her I know we want to see her? He asked softly, his hand coming to rest on Hinata's leg at around her knee. She saw Hinata's flush return, but her hand came to rest atop his. Very well, since I am pretty much done here, I'll let her know. Tsunade rose and headed to the door, glancing over her shoulder at the pair. Glimpsing at that moment a happiness she would never know. A happiness that comes when soulmates stand together. Thanks, Granny, he said with a smile as he watched her leave. Hinata looked down at their hands and sighed softly, though it was kind of a happy sigh. Are you sure? About this, I mean? Her fingers tightened on his ever so slightly. I stand by what I say. Hinata, you're my girlfriend and I don't care what anyone says. But are you? There are things she and I will have to say. You don't have to be here if you. Her fingers stopped his lips. I want to stay and I too stand by what I say, remember? She said ever so softly as she looked into his eyes and found that fire in them that made her heart speed up. We will face her together. No buts, okay, he said with a cheerful grin. It's about time, but still I'm nervous. It's not the first time I've seen him in a hospital bed. Just this time Hinata will be there too. I can deal with this. I can. She caught her thoughts rambling even as she was fidgeting with her hair in front of a mirror and straightening her clothes unnecessarily. They were waiting for her, and here she was dithering about like a schoolgirl. She took a breath and left the orderly's break room and headed to the hall where Naruto's room was. She nodded to the two A and B guarding the door to the wing, and she saw where two more pairs stood watch. She knew this was Tsunade-sama's doing, but for the life of her she didn't understand why. Why the two tight security? The Hyuga clan wouldn't try anything since it was their leader who broke the rules. What is it that she knows that I don't? The question stopped as she reached the only door with a name on it. He was the only patient in this wing. She took a moment and breathed, trying to stop the urge to straighten her clothes one last time. She shook her head and smiled as she knocked. Come in, Sakura-chan. It was Naruto's voice, which meant he was finally awake. She slid the door open and entered, saying in her usual manner, about time you woke up. The last word trailing off as she blushed furiously when her gaze fell on the couple kissing. She averted her eyes and coughed into her fist. Ahem, maybe I should come back later, she inquired in a too polite tone. Hinata laughed softly as she straightened from the kiss she had initiated, her color bright on her pale skin as she brushed her hair back from her face. Her response was the same too sweet tone. Not at all, Sakura-chan. Come in, please. Naruto looked between the two and he suddenly felt the hair on the back of his neck rise up in warning. No, I think I should be the one wanting to be someplace else. Sakura grabbed a chair and sat down facing them, looking for all the world like she was looking not at her friends but a firing squad. So what's up? She asked, looking to Naruto, knowing that she had been meant to see the kiss and that Hinata was telling her none too subtly that Naruto was hands off, which she almost found funny, except lately she's had to re-examine her own thinking and it made her come to a few surprising conclusions. It was Naruto who spoke up. Slowly at first, but he had to break this tension. Hinata and Granny told me the only reason I survived to make it to the hospital at all is because of you. I just wanted to say thank you for that and everything you did in the operating room. I don't know all the details and I'm pretty sure it was Harry in there. I do know you never gave up. It means a lot. His hand ran over the bandages covering his chest and stomach absently. Baka, she said bluntly even as she looked at him. You think I'd just let you go and die on me? You're my friend and teammate. If I wouldn't fight to save you, then what right do I have to call myself a medical ninja? She didn't voice the rest of her words, not when she knew it would create more problems. Not help the one person who has stood by me since we were teamed up and never once gave up on me. How could I give up on you? He blinked and he felt Hinata bristle at the slur, but he ended up laughing instead. I think I've missed that, he said quietly before he took a breath. Listen, I have to admit something to you, Sakura-chan. I had a crush on you for years. Since we started at the academy. It's just that it changed when Jiraiya. He still choked slightly on mentioning him by name instead of the nickname he had given him, since he and I went on that 2.5-year journey together. And even after we got back, I've had to grow up. I cared for you then and I still do. Now it's only as a friend. I have only one serious regret. I wasn't able to keep my promise to you yet. I won't be giving up on finding Sasuke and bringing him back. Hinata listened as he confessed to Sakura and she wondered if it was as hard for him as it had been for her all these years. Probably worse, she thought to herself, since they are also teammates. I had a safety net of distance and different teams as a buffer. He didn't. Oh God, My poor Naruto, to face her every day and not be able to tell her I will make sure you never ever come to regret being with me. Her eyes widened as he spoke, her own conclusions being thrown right at her. She felt tears welling up and falling down her cheeks as he finished up, knowing that the door had closed on the chance she hadn't even known had existed. All this time? He carried a torch for me, just like I have for Sasuke, and never once did he let it show not to me, or I was just simply too wrapped up in finding and saving Sasuke to notice. She blinked away the tears and noticed they had gone silent. Watching her. Well, I am a bit surprised. All I can say now is that I care for you too, Naruto. As a friend, you know my heart is Sasuke's and I won't give up on him either. She smiled and tilted her head, praying they left it at that. She wouldn't give voice to her innermost thoughts. Not when he's telling me that he's moved on, not that I have any right to try for anything more than friendship. He's happy with Hinata and that is what's important, just have to keep that in mind. Hinata watched Sakura intently, her arm loosely around Naruto's neck. A picture perfect of a young couple. Yet her nerves grew tight. It's the tears, she knows she's lost her chance, I just hope she accepts it. She was surprised at her own possessive thoughts but realized that she has tasted happiness with Naruto, and nothing would ever measure up to it. Naruto nodded and smiled, hoping things were good again between the three of them. Good, because as soon as the village is in good shape, I'm going to hunt for him. I will find him and bring him home, he said, giving her a thumbs up. Then he realized something about himself. I have gotten over her. The pain isn't there anymore at the thought of her loving someone else. Is it because I have someone who loves me back now? Maybe by accepting Hinata's love and giving her mine, it's a new start. Hinata looked down at him and shook her head. For now, you are not leaving this bed, Tsunade-sama's orders. At least not outside the exercise schedule she allows you. She raised two fingers and mock poked his shoulder. Try anything and I'll beat you back into your coma. He laughed and fended off her fingertips. Only if you promise to stay with me until I wake up, he said, and saw her blush profusely at the hidden connotations of KK. I think my mouth just got me in serious trouble. That is, Naruto, I'd better go, Sakura said as she rose and left before they could object. She couldn't watch them being cutesy lovey-dovey together anymore. You be good for him, Hinata, and good to him otherwise. I'll kill you with my bare hands, she promised herself quietly as she shut the door behind her. Hinata watched her leave, then kissed Naruto's forehead. I'm going home now. I need a serious bath and you need rest. No arguments. I'll be back tomorrow to check on you. She rose and prepared to leave. She poked her head back around the curtain and smiled, she hoped, seductively. As for staying with you until you wake up, that will depend on why you fell asleep in the first place. She smiled at his confused expression and left before he could catch the innuendo she had dropped on him. Hinata rushed home and entered the compound, her smile vanishing as she was greeted with bows and genuflections reserved for the leader of the head family. She returned each with a regal nod as she went to the family bath and got cleaned up. I'm going to have to tell Naruto about this. And soon, she thought as she soaked and relaxed in the bath spring. She heard the rustlings and used her Byakugan. She saw several members of various branch families gathering with others and talking in the meeting hall. She shook her head and rose to dry off and dress in something more fitting of the occasion. Once done, she prepared to head to the hall but was stopped by an ANBU carrying a sealed message scroll bearing her name. She waited till the Secret Service member left before opening it and reading quickly. She slid it up her sleeve and went to meeting hall. Inside, she was met by full bows of everyone there. Hyuga-sama! Echoed in the chamber, as she ascended the dais and took the place normally used by her father. Settling down, she glanced right to see Hanabi taking her seat, and then her mother took hers on her opposite side. She faced the crowd gathered and said in a calm voice that held none of the tremors she fought to keep hidden. Greeting, gentlemen. You have asked for this meeting and I asked for time until Uzumaki Naruto was awake and on the road to full recovery. He is well and resting comfortably now. And according to Tsunade-sama, physically fit and healthy, her tone showing her pride in her boyfriend and in those who had helped him. The news was greeted with sighs of relief from many of the representatives, one of whom shifted and asked quietly, knowing this, why will you not take the position as clan leader permanently? Your father is under house arrest, guarded by 10 ANBU shinobi inside a sealed area, awaiting his fate once decided by the Hokage. If you wish to make your claim, the majority of families here will support you. No offense to Lady Hanabi, but your strength of purpose and care for the well-being of the clan as a whole is well known. You should be heir. You deserve to be. Hinata raised a hand before anyone could second the motion, and it came to a vote. Thank you for that show of confidence. That means more to me than you'll ever realize. However, father decreed it publicly that Hanabi is to succeed him. Not me. I cannot undo that, and to try would lead the clan to a civil war not witnessed since before the formation of the branch family and the birdcage